take you down. Ooh, baby, me get you into my life. Ooh, baby, can't let you out of my sight. Ooh, baby, don't care if you ain't my type. Don't even know you, but I can't get you out of my mind. I can't get you, can't get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of, yeah. Girl, you know you got it easy. You got me tossing and turning, thinking of what we could be. I've been searching for the words, but how do I say everything I need to? Everything I need to. Yeah. I've been trying to get you out to something, out to grind. You've been haunting me for 40 days and 40 nights. I know better than to keep checking if you still all night. I can't help it, I can't help it. Ooh, baby, me get you into my life. Ooh, baby, can't let you out of my sight. Ooh, baby, don't care if you ain't my type. Don't even know you, but I can't get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you out of my mind. I can't get you, get you.
Hello everyone, my name is Notepad and on and I write games for fun, so what are we doing today? Well, today we're going to be going over a few games. Hyped for Sigma Punk. Yes, we're going to be looking at Sigma Punk dead last, actually. I managed to fight my way through all the... You guys sent me things at like the end of the day, so I had to go over a bunch of different things right at the end of the day. And I'm like, all right, powered through, went to bed at 5 a.m. That's why the stream's a little bit late today. But today we're going to be going over, actually about four of your projects. Yes, 4 of your particular projects that you sent me. Half of you sent them me on Friday night. So have fun with that. I'll do my best. Delicious coffee. Today has been me marked with people talking to me about CP. A lot of CP conversation going on. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess. Yeah, that's just been my morning pretty much. I woke up I woke up, got ready, opened Twitter, CP. It's like, oh, like, and then I'm like, oh, you're talking about Cyberpunk. Okay, good. Yeah, no, that was my like, oh sweet Jesus. You open up Twitter because I gotta play the game. But yes, we're gonna go to over, I would say 3 main projects and also a few small, just kind of looking over things in general because I can. But yeah, am I gonna say, can I go over everything that was sent to me? No, because some of you fuckers sent me things in the middle of the night, and it was like, well, crap, I can't go over all of these things all at once. So the main, I would say the main 3 projects we're going to be going over is Wrong Thing. We don't need you yet. This is Undying Metal by our one and only Ethical Explosives. This is Blood Drive by Jort, or boy Jort. It's fun to say that. And this is Inversion by Noonie. You might know him from the server. All of these guys, yes. These are the 3 main games. Now, oof. Yeah, no, it's like I will plan on, like, as you can kind of see by the title of this stream at least, and last. Yes, give me 1 second. When I said I didn't have time to really do jack shit. Oh, no, that's not good. When I said I didn't really have time to do jack shit, I'm not lying when I say that. I didn't really actually have time to go over Sigma Punk, really, just because it was the middle of the night. It was about 5 a.m. when I actually ended up with things. But this is Sigma Punk. Luckily, Sigma Punk is not actually very large, so we don't have to worry about too much. Yes, this is Sigma Punk by Varric, our boy Varric, you know, the V-Man himself. I call him the Z-Man, but yeah, the V-Man himself. We're going to be going over this game. No, don't look at it. Don't look at it, me. But yeah, these are the games we're going to be going over today. Now, I debated on which one to go over first, because all of them do have something unique I want to talk about a little bit with. Hi, hello, aloha, everybody. Call this man a rose boy. Okay. Goodbye, Mr. Man. I do not need you anymore. That's even sadder. See, we don't need you, Antonio. I'm sorry, Antonio. You're cringe. But here's the funny thing with this is that usually I have to go on and do like very large and convoluted cases and stories of learning about it. Did you flag it? No, I didn't. I was just getting rid of it fast. Yeah, I gotta usually find out things about each of these people and, you know, really find out where they live, who they are, how they operate, where can I find their home address, and where is the weak points in their security systems. But I cannot, because half of you are here already. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so if I have any great criticism or any problems, I can just tell you guys. Now, one of the big things about this is that I'm going to do my best to be nice, but I'm also going to be a dick, because this is how I do things. So the first one we're going to be going over is Undying Metal. Now, going over Undying Metal first, because this is actually just 23 pages. This is actually a fairly small game comparatively. But the big thing is, just for people to kind of understand, this is a vertical slice of the combat only. That's one thing you got to remember. This is not the full game. This is, you know, it's not just going to be 23 pages. It even makes it kind of a note down here, like, there's no cybernetics in this game about cybernetics. So bear that in mind you. But yes, we're going to go over Undying Metal first. This is done by Ethical Explosives. Our man, our person, as you can see, Undying Metal here. Also, Clark at undyingmetal.com. Undying Metal. Is that a website? Let's play the game. Undyingmetal.com. Well, good news, everybody. It's not a website, but it probably is a website, though. Let me see. He's a cool dude. He chats in here quite a bit. Don't know much about it, though. Don't worry about it, everybody. He's a cool dude. Here, let me just do this for the let me just do this for the sake of completeness, because I want everyone to get followed. I want everyone to have fun. I want everyone to be okay with each other. This is Undying Metal. He's on Twitter. He's a cool dude. At Undying Metal RPG. Talks about his games quite a bit. We're gonna go over you later, George. One second. Yeah. We're gonna be. This is who he is. Cool dude. 64 tweets. Joined January 2022. Looking into his history, couldn't find anything too exciting. You're a very quiet man, Mr. Ethical. Very quiet man. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, jeez. He followed me. Oh, he followed me. That's not a good thing. Good start, everybody. Good start to this conversation. All right, so we do this. We hit this button. Yeah, this is everything you need to know about the guy, and everything you kind of do. If you think this project's kind of interesting, feel free to do it. Now, what is this game? Well, the main resolution mechanic behind Undying Metal is 3d6 roll under. Yes, roll under. It kind of confused me for a bit. I was looking at it and being like, what the fuck are you on about? One of the main things is actually the idea of success levels. So, for example, let's say my total score is 10, and I roll jack shit. I roll 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, let's say my base is 10, and I rolled a 12. I would fail by 2, so I would have a -2 SL. These success levels are really the most important thing of the entire game. A lot of things actually are derived from that more than anything, which I think the system is fine. As you can kind of see, modifiers, if it works. These modifiers can go a little bit high in some cases, or a little bit low. It's kind of odd in that regard. This is our base character. Obviously, we brought in Iro Barkowitz. As you can very much tell, we got to have all the essential stats. There's no character sheet, so I made a character sheet. Doink. We have our basic punk rating. We have our cock size being fairly average. We got all our basic stats, our basic sub-derived stats, I guess, as well as our skills, talents, our dollary dues, and of course our equipment. This game isn't necessarily difficult, but let's take for an example, we want to make a strength athletics check. Technically, we would have a combination of 9 plus 3 for a total of 12. We take our 3d6, and roll, and I rolled a 9, 12. I rolled a 12 exactly, therefore I would have a success level of 0. Pretty simple. Not a complicated game. And as you can see here, I'm very kind of light on skills or anything like that. Again, don't worry, it's very simple. Expect jank. Again, this is a combat playtest, very vertical slice of the game. What stat do you use for the cock check? Okay, cock check. Well, let's again, you can ask the man himself. Cock check, however, I would say Constitution plus athletics would be my immediate idea. If you want to be a little bit more, dramatic about thing, possibly Constitution plus tactics. In case you want to do something there. However, as you can kind of see here, kind of a nice assortment of stuff already. Very tightly designed. I was a little bit mystified at this right to begin with. All primary attributes start at 8. You start with 1 attribute point. I was a little bit worried immediately when I saw this. I was like, what the fuck? That's not a lot. But you can kind of go up and down a little bit more. You can get 1 attribute by loading attribute by 1 to a minimum of 6. Now, if I wanted to raise any of these to 10, I would have to spend 2 of these points. Now, interesting to note here. at bare minimum, if we really take it being like just the number of attribute points you get bare minimum, more than anything, we're going to start with 8 across the board. Now, generally speaking, your full, I should say, attribute, the most average attribute is going to be this. This is going to be your, this is your 9, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Yeah, this is your 9, 8. This is pretty much going to be your average score right here on most everything. Now, again, I was a little bit like, that's kind of odd. I don't know if I'm like a huge fan of that, but if you kind of reduce up and down, I think what I have here is going to be a fairly common assortment. So it's going to be something like, 9, 9, 9, 8, 7, 7, or something variations of this, because going any lower is really bad. Remember, this is a roll under system, and you have 3d6 to work with, mind you. So 3d6 is not just, okay, if like one die rolls under. No, the entire thing has to. And the range for 3d6 is technically 3 to 18, which doesn't seem like, it's just like, oh, it's only 3 to 18, but like having a 7, like going down to 6 in something does make that like range very tight all of a sudden. That means you have to roll all 1s or all 2s if you just want to do a raw check. So going down like, even going down to things like 7 is like a little bit hinky. 9 is where you start getting like more of a 50-50. Because with strength of 9, for example, if I want to roll, I have a 50-50 chance effectively to at least roll below my stat. Just a raw check. Now, mind you, you're not going to be doing just raw checks most of the time. You're going to be able to add your skills to things. These skills aren't going to be massive. These aren't going to be into 7s or 8s, really. These are going to be only a couple bits, only a few points in either direction. You're never really going to hit 18 to start with, but going up to 10 is a kind of a big cost. Because if you can think about it more along the lines of, if I want a 10, just one 10, I would effectively have a, like one of the, it would either have to be like 8s, it would be either 8, 8, let me see, 8, 8, 8, 7, 7, which this is what like kind of like the most bare minimum to get a 10 in. You'd have to reduce 2 things by 1, which is actually no, it would be kind of a cost. Like it exponentially gets harder. Fan of it, don't know if I am or not, but that's just kind of my little thoughts on it. It's great. So back to the grind. So, basic attributes: strength, agility, constitution, intelligence, perception, willpower. These are not very thematic. These are very to the point. Yeah, is it fine? Yeah. Mind you, this isn't going to be like cyber strength or cyber agility. No, not just slapping random words on it. It's your base 6. Nothing too exciting in it. The only odd ones are perception versus willpower, but you can kind of just sub those out for charisma, and it would be subbed out for wisdom / charisma in most other games. Basic 6. Next, we have the XP. Now, XP was a little bit weird. They kind of just tell you this, like right here, like, oh, here's 20 XP. Fuck you, have fun. Like, oh. Yeah, so we have our basic ones here. Most things is going to be, this seems like a lot. This isn't really a lot. So now we have our idea with our only, I believe it was, what'd you end up calling it? Let me refer back to my, my conversation the other night with him. Satoshis. Yeah. So, there we go. Here's all our basic talents. To start with talents. Now, I was like, okay, maybe this has to do something down here. No, these are just by 1, just 1 for 1. That's from as much as I can kind of gather. So obviously I kind of spent most of mine on skills, because skills are useful. Skills just are usually, most of the time, skills are going to be the thing that are valuable, because skills are going to make sure that you can do things more consistently. Talents were mixed. Again, it's a lot of like, They don't tell you, like, things with, like, ambidextrous. Fuck off and make fighty, man. Yeah. One of the big things is you have things like ambidextrous, for example. Ambidextrous, you can technically take this twice, like, and you just fully remove a penalty to it. They don't really talk about the penalty elsewhere, but it's like, yeah, you can do this. So technically, you can argue like ambidextrous is not just 1 XP for one thing; it's 2 XP for the full thing. Honestly, how I would write it would be like 1/2 XP to buy off the full thing. That's be just me. You know, things like Berserk Strike, for your action, you can choose to make a Berserk Strike. You can choose to either make an additional melee attack or add plus 1d6 of damage of your next melee attack. Take any defenses until the start of your next turn. Then you get shit like Apex, which Apex is hard to... You would have to build around this particular aspect, because that's 10 XP. You don't really get that much. And you're going to end up in a situation, as we kind of were talking about earlier, where either you gimp yourself in certain aspects, or you become just the best of the best in one. And this is allowing you to become the best of the best in one thing. So it's like, okay. Out of everything, I don't see people taking Apex immediately all the time. This would be like, I want to do a gimmick. Bulging biceps, reduce minimum strength for all weapons used by one, which is a little bit weird, but it kind of works. We'll get to that in a bit. You know, combat parkour. A lot of these you can kind of see are like 1, 2, 3, then 5 XP. Not exactly, you're not going to get like 7 XP. I don't think anything is worth like 7 XP or anything like that. So you're kind of encouraged to take at least a few of these. Some of these are like far more, how do I want to word this? Far more involved. Like combat parkour is like you can make a hard acrobatics check, getting +1 to your dodge roll if you roll for each to SL. If you take it 3 times and you're given +1 to all your acrobatics checks. Like, okay. But then you also get things like, oh, forceful blows, more strength, add +1 to your damage with melee weapons. You can take this twice. You take, for 2 XP, you just get +2 to all your melee weapons, which is pretty good, actually. Or you end up with things like pain tolerance. Reduce it by 1, which is like, okay, that's, you end up with things like, here's a gimmick one where you actually, you a little bit involved. Here's just more health. Here's more things. Here's you being better. This is why I ended up taking Sprinter 2, actually. Because Sprinter allows you, just gives you +1 to all your athletics checks to sprint. So you just get a flat +1, which is, sprinting is a dedicated action. Now, every level after first also gives you +1 to your speed, which is actually a attribute increase. So you kind of see that here, because the derived attributes, if I go up here, these are kind of like your derived ones. Frame is your ability to survive injury. Now, I read this wrong to begin with. Hence why we have half the average, not just the average. Reflex is reflex is fight or flight. Social is your ability to maintain interpersonal relationships. And finally, how fast you move in yards per second. Now, technically, I can move 10 yards per second. If I'm doing my math, math correctly. Sprinting means that I can dead sprint across almost the entire map pretty easy. I can book it. Like, I am able to sprint very easily because I am a sprinter and I have all these things. Yeah, additional momentum, tough. This is what I mean by, like, you have things like gimmick, just thing that you need. So it's like, what's going to be kind of prioritized? I don't quite know. Why is there a tiger? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm gonna be kind of, I'm gonna harp on little things, but this is why I'm here. This is why you want me here. We have our basic skills: athletics, cool, dodge, gun. This was kind of odd. Like, specializations, I never really saw anything when it comes to gun, like, specializations. I might have just not seen it, so hence why it's just guns too. I'm assuming there is. You know, we have Intimidate. Most of these kind of do their own thing. Like, oh, if you have one specialization, you can use other specialization at the rank of your own specialization at -2 in tactics. I'm assuming that, like, well, let's just do specialization. Yeah, these are the only mentions of specializations in the entire game, unless, again, I read something wrong. They don't really... that would be one thing I would make a note about, which I'm assuming in the full game there is going to be. However, that's what I have to say. So, you know, we have our basic rules for a test. 3d6, roll under. You know, attribute plus skill, or whatever the relevant thing is. Critical success and failures. If you roll a 3 to 4, a 1-1-1, or a 1-1-2, congratulations, you've critically succeeded. However, if you roll a 6-6-6 or a 6-6-5, you've critically failed. That's bad. You don't want to fail, nor do you want to fully succeed. Now, interestingly enough, this does mean the lower and upper ends are really good to hit. This also means possibly one of the most optimal positions to be in is have a 16 in something. Not a 17 or 18, a 16. Because if you have a 16 in something, a raw check means that you're going to just succeed if you roll a 16. Because let's say you have an 8. Let's say somehow you end up with a 17 in something. This isn't a... How do I want to word it? This is not an ideal state of being because you're still going to fail if you roll 17. That's just me. You have our basic success levels. You know, we already kind of went over these. If you roll high, you're good. Roll low, you're bad. Pretty simple. Pose tests are kind of the same thing. I was a little bit confused with the pose tests at first. The max skill is +5. Oh. Let's see. It's like just the skull you use. Guns, pistol, guns, long range, like the groups. Jesse, we must grapple. No return of that. Yeah. But here, this is the thing you gotta remember. You gotta remember this ethical. You're going to be adding cybernetics. You're going to be adding things. And there's going to be someone who's going to take Apex, who's going to try to jack his strength up. So maximum, you're going to end up with about 16, and then someone's going to want to take their gorilla arms. Yeah, with their, you know, which are going to want to do their own thing. Think ahead. I have an answer for something you think you might come up. Jesse! Yeah, one of the big things with like a pose test that's a little bit odd. So let's say, for example, we'll make a very a broad example full of nothingness. Now, let's say, for example, my athletics, my grappling is my strength, so it'd be my strength plus my athletics. Let's say Iro here with his 12. Let's say Iro here with his 12 needs to grapple Manly with an 11. What's going to happen is both of them, I'm going to fucking throw my dice across the room because I'm a silly boy. Just a silly clown. So, Iro's going to roll. He rolls a 7, 8, 9. He rolls a 9, therefore he has a 3 SL. Now, Manly's going to roll. And Manly's going to roll. He rolled a 6, 7, 8. He rolled an 8. Both of them have tied. That's bad. We'll roll again for Manly just to make sure that this, comparison works. And oh no, Manly, you rolled a 15, -4 SL. Iro would beat you in the wrestling competition. He would wrestle you to the ground with his Polish, his nubile Polish frame. And God knows what happens after that. I was a little bit confused at first with this, just a smidge, but that's also just maybe... I think a longer example wouldn't hurt. Hello. Ooh. Friends linking me the fucking Benches of Baron guy. Yes. We have our basic difficulty modifiers. Nothing too exciting. One of the odd things with this though is like these are the number of dice you're going to be rolling. If your modifier is positive, roll additional dice equal to the modifier. Do the same by choosing the 3 highest. So let's say something like is an average check. You're going to be adding, instead of 4, you're going to be rolling 5d6. If you're difficult, you're only going to be rolling 4d6 as well, but taking the highest. So for example, if I roll my dice here, I rolled a 5, 6, 3, 3. If I had a +1, I would just take the 6 plus 5. It'd be just 11. However, if it was a -1, I would have, I'm going to move one of the 3s, and I would have rolled a 14. Pretty bad. We don't want that. Yeah, this is, again, I'd be curious to see how often this would come up, and that people wouldn't just like slap like, this, you get a +3 difficulty to it, so you just slap a +3 to this or whatever. I'd be curious to see how people would do that, or how well that works in practice. Assisting, same idea. Assisting grants +1 to the test, maximum +3. So this is technically something that can occur as well. If you're looking at this, which is assisting grants +1 to the test to a maximum +3, rolled normally by the character with the best chance of success. Yeah, so technically, under this wording, it could either be using the modifier, or it would be using this, just a flat +1. I would say maybe clarify that a little bit. But combat, the actual point of this game, let's be honest with ourselves here. Now, the basic concept of combat is that you're gonna fucking die. You're gonna die. It hurts. Getting shot hurts. You know, it's rule number 1. Getting shot hurts. So roll 3d6 against your reflexes, and this is what I say, like, SL is a lot more important than your stats in some regards, because this is not just roll 3d6, add your reflex, or just add your reflex plus whatever. No, this is 3d6 against my reflex score. So my reflex is 8, and then I roll, and then I determine my success levels from that, which I rolled the absolute physical worst at an 18. The one time I need to roll under things, and I rolled jack shit. My fucking life. You know. Then we have our basic movement here, otherwise known as you can move your speed in yards, or you can charge. You know, charging, you move your speeds Y. You double your speed, you can charge at them, +1 momentum, which momentum is very important. Later on, we'll discuss that a little bit. Then make a melee attack. Now, Iroh's entire build here, Iroh's goal with his, average cock and minimal punk rating, is that he wants to close the distance. He takes his gun out, he pops you, and he goes bang, 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 and then he rushes at you with a sword. That's the entire point. That's what he wants to do, and how he's going to plan on doing it. Because Ambidextrous 2 allows me to do this with 0 penalty. It's pretty poggers. Disengaging, same way, it's kind of the way you think now disengaging would work, which is the idea, like if you make an opposed check with dodge versus their melee skill, you can move momentum and run away. If you fuck up, well, you're not going to. They're going to get momentum and they're going to bash you over the head, or you can spend your momentum to run like hell. The weird thing about momentum is that momentum is actually a group resource. Everybody can share momentum. Subtracting dice from a roll under system make it easier to succeed. Well, this is the weird thing with how that particularly works. So let's say you have a penalty. Kind of go under how it works a little bit more. In this particular game, what would actually occur is you just take the highest. If you have a penalty to something, you take whatever the highest is. So let's say, for example, I rolled a 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I have a penalty, like something is there, what's going to happen is I'm going to take away my 1. Oh no, I've rolled higher technically. However, I have a positive thing. What's going to happen? I'm going to take away 1 in my 4d6. I'm going to take away the 4, and I've rolled lower. That's why it's a little bit odd. Subtracting dice from a roll under system would make it pretty easier. Mostly because the range is smaller. You cannot roll. How do I usually end up wording it? You cannot roll a 7 on a d6. And if you just need to roll that, so it's like, if the dice do not allow you to do something, then you can't do it. Pretty simple. So fleeing is kind of, I think the best way to say is like, and disengaging is more of a formal way to fuck off. Fleeing is the less formal way. This is the, oh fuck, oh damn, I'm running away now. Which allows you, which gives them immediate momentum, gets free unopposed melee attack, and if you're hit, they get more momentum, and then you have to possibly get the panic condition, which is bad. Fleeing is kind of the last option. Fleeing is the, oh fuck, oh damn, I'm getting my ass handed to me, I need to get out of dodge. I would be very surprised if anybody flees outside of very specific circumstances. Or they have like, or there's a point to fleeing. Like, well, I could trigger my implants to allow me to double my sprint if I flee, and then I'm allowed to shoot you in the head using my gun kata. With the modifiers, why does okay, actually here, give me one. I can explain this a little bit easier. Again, it's a little bit odd. So let's say, for example, let's say again, these are just d6s. I roll a 3, 5, 6, and actually I will roll a 1, 3, 5, 4, and a 6. Now, this game is only 3d6. You'll only ever take 3d6. Now, if I have a +1, pretty much I have a positive. You know, this is positive. Something is good. What's going to happen is I'm going to take away the highest, which is the bad. You don't want to have highest. You're taking away a die to do that. You're like, okay, cool. I've taken my 3, and now I've only rolled an 8. However, using this again, kind of using this as a basic example. Yeah, no, it's just for some people who may not get. If I have a -1, you know, if I have a -1, I'm instead going to take away my 1, which is bad. Again, this is one of those things where maybe seeing it a little bit more in action would be a little bit more helpful, ethical, if you're listening. Like, because yeah, this is pretty much it. I would say maybe seeing this in action, like you could probably put it like right here, just like an example of a bunch of things happening at once. Just for it, because like, okay, it's changing up things just enough where it's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit weird. But yeah. So, for example, our actions like, hey, I'm aiming, I'm making a perception check, I get a +1 for, you know, if I succeed, I get a +1. Every subsequent round, aiming automatically grants another +1. So the more you aim, the more you're going to likely hit. All right. You know, I can assess the situation, which assessing the situation's a little bit wonky. I would most likely, with assess the situation, give it something maybe a little bit more examples of like what individual things can do. Because what it is you can gain an advantage in the combat. Narrate how the skill will apply to the situation and make a test against it. The GM may give a bonus or penalty. On a success, you gain 2 momentum and 3 on a critical success. This is really important because momentum is valuable. Because remember, momentum is a group resource. So if someone assesses the situation, the next turn, someone can disengage for free. So it's like, okay, or someone can gain another bonus, or someone's able to really get something out of it. Where one GM may say yes, another GM may say no. I would kind of maybe give this a little bit more, maybe a little bit more meat behind it. That's just me. Yeah, more in-depth variable advantage, disadvantage system. Yeah. Yeah, then we have our basic attacks. Not exactly too complicated. Yeah. This is when things start getting a little bit wonky. You know, if you attack the same turn as you move, suffer a penalty equal to the weapon's encumbrance. Which does mean, like, moving an attack. What's going to happen here, fun fact, is you're going to slap yourself behind cover and then pop back and go bang, bang. You know, move, bang, bang, move, bang, bang. Getting actually, like, stuck in is kind of a risk because you're going to take a pretty big penalty to it. Because, again, these aren't really big numbers we're working with here. You know, defend, actively defend yourself. Ready in action, special, and then sprint. This is the funny one. Make an easy athletics check. You sprint a number of yards equal to your SL plus your speed. This is why I mean, like, in a single round, you're able to just fucking book it if you roll really, really well. Technically, I could, if I roll exceedingly well, I might be able to run like 15, 16 yards in a single round. Just dead sprint. Yeah. Tracking movement. Where squares hexagon represent 4 planets distances, represented by miniatures. If you do this, I recommend 1 inch grid with each inch represents 2 yards from 28 millimeter mint. Yeah, I would say this right now, make a commitment what you're doing. Are we doing theater of the mind? Or are we using maps? These do change things. You make it, most of this is assuming this one, kind of this little bit less, I wouldn't say less focused, but a little bit more theater of the mind idea. If you do go down the grid, you're going to have to address things on the grid. That's the important thing. Can I move diagonal? Can I, what constitutes in and out of cover? What is, what happens if I can move 7 inches on a, 7, what can I happens, hello phone, what happens when I can move 7 yards on a, with 2-yard grids? Do I end up getting into that middle one, or do I not get into the middle one? That's where things get a little bit, you have to answer the questions. That's why I say, commit. This is why we go over things. Again, the encumbrance wasn't too bad. Like, as you kind of see here, my weapons didn't really have that high encumbrance at all, but I also chose lightweight for both of them. Because I thought that would be good. And it's very useful to just have the most amount of stuff as physically possible to become safe. I have a need. Making a basic attack. So, making a basic attack. I'm going to be testing, it's an opposed check. That's the big idea. It's actually an opposed one. So it's, okay, he needs to make this and he's going to attack me. Oh no, we're going to have to do that. So if I want to stab you, I got my sword out. I'm going to stab you to death. Because you're dumb and I hate you and I want to kill you. It's a contest check. You do your melee. You do your melee versus their melee or dodge, which melee is more along the line you're trying to parry them. The weird thing with melee weapon that's actually quite different from range weapons is that they have the success levels, success level added to the damage. So if I roll 3 success level over you, I'm going to do 8 damage. If I roll 6 success levels, I'm going to roll 11 damage. These ones, kind of range weapons have a lot more, I would say, dedicated numbers when it comes to it. 2d6 plus 1. My strength isn't going to impact me like my pistol hitting you in the fucking skull. No. Base damage of plus 1 or 3 damage. Hacking multiple targets. You just take a -2. Pretty simple. Moving and attacking. It's hard to move and attack at the same time. Weird thing is, suffer a penalty equal to half your character's weapons encumbrance unless you charge. Which does mean you have some weird moments where movement is really discouraged. That's why I say, like, movement is really discouraged in this game. It happens to the best of us. So we have, obviously, our range over here. If it's, in close range, it can be difficult. Hitting a moving target in close range. Consult the following table to determine how difficult it is to hit your opponent with a ranged attack. Yeah, this is the range attack table for every weapon. I am actually making a brave assumption. Let me just double check this real fast. Yes, this is the aiming for every weapon. I'm gonna make a brave assumption that there are some things. You can see this like a -1, -2, -3 penalty. Oh no. Hit your opponent with a ranged attack. Each 2 times range. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit funky, where technically hitting someone with a burst weapon up close can maybe give you a little bit of a penalty, similar to hitting someone with a rifle at 6 yards. A little bit funky, maybe not. Maybe consult range a little bit. So we have reach, obviously. Actually, where was that? This is just a melee attack. Where was the range attack? Range attacks are obviously different because we live in a clown society. The fuck is the range attack? Yeah, range attacks should be just the same, right? Yeah, I think of anyway. Yeah, okay, it's because you suffer 2 additional attacks. Yeah. Range is universal. Reach is the same. Pretty much, if they have a longer weapon than you, you're going to take a penalty to hit them. So if they have a spear and you have a knife, they're going to stab you before you can stab them. Pretty simple. Yeah, inside your opponent's length, when or chooses if combat continues as normal as in fighting. During infighting, any weapon with longer reach than short counts as an improvised weapon. This is what I mean by range makes things a little bit wonky when it comes to just I wouldn't say in combat or out of combat, more of the theater of the mind versus a grid. On a grid, sometimes reach is going to be represented a bit stranger. Theater of the mind does allow me to, someone's trying to like stab me with a weapon and I sidestep out of the way and jack a knife into their neck. That's a little bit easier to kind of get across in theater of the mind. But you lose a lot of the, I wouldn't say nuance, but you lose a lot of the little stuff. Just use range bands. Can you please not use Imperial System? Sorry, only Imperial System. God has given us the Imperial System, therefore. Within reach longer than short. Yeah, this is one of those odd things that maybe determine when it comes to like movement and stuff, just maybe. Now, you can choose to hit different body parts, and this is somewhat important when it comes to things like wounding. So, for example, oh no, I want to shoot you in the arm. I'm going to take a -2 penalty. Oh no, I want to shoot you in the leg. Going to take a -3 penalty. Oh no, I'm going to shoot you in the face for a -4 penalty, but shooting you in the skull is a -6 penalty. One of those very odd moments, maybe just me, or technically I can be shot in the face, but not the skull, which is very different by about a factor of an inch. But then vitals is very good, by the way, and technically every ranged weapon can actually hit vitals, which does lead to something very amusing when you get to the fact of slashing weapons technically can't. Just piercing, and guns count as piercing, so it's like, oh no, I need to shoot you in the arm, but not your guts. Yeah, it's a... Targeting body parts are a little bit funky, but that's just me. Grappling, obviously, you know, we all love grappling. We all love our gotchi grapple. You know, everybody is, you know, grappling and getting all close and dirty with each other. That happens. Now, cover is its own system, which is, so let's say, for example, I've been, you know, oh no, you know, bang, you know, someone has shot at me. I'm gonna roll my die, and I rolled a 3. Let's say I'm behind at least half cover. I have failed. It has hit me. But let's say, for example, I'm in almost all cover. I rolled a 3. It doesn't hit me. You know, if you're totally behind cover and attacks over -4 to hit. Yeah, it's, you know, cover reduces damage by attack by its AP the same way as armor does. You know, my 2SL, the hex takes you as well. This does lead to some odd moments where how this works, to kind of writing it out a little bit more. It's not, and the thing is, it doesn't hurt to have a grid. Here's the thing, Ethical. This is what I would do. I would say, have like a side note being like, hey, some groups like playing on a grid. If you do like playing on a grid, here's like a very quick and dirty way of doing it. Like, that's kind of how I would do it. It's like, here's a very quick, I have 15 viewers. What the fuck? But like, here's a very quick, here's a very dirty way of doing it. Now, interesting note with how cover works. So let's say let's say Iroh is behind a brick wall. Well, yeah, and that's, AP 10. And let's say he's half. Let's say, cool. Let's say he's half. 4 up. Okay. Iroh's behind a brick wall. He's halfway behind a brick wall with AP 10. So, first things first. They're going to need to make an attack against me. So, they're making an attack. They roll. Oh no, they have succeeded. Oh no! They have succeeded. If they roll only a 1, I'm going to first check if they've hit my cover. Oh wow, everybody. They've totally hit my cover. This is an astronomical feat. I don't need to worry about it. Okay, so they're going to hit the cover. However, if you were totally behind cover, and attack set -4, -2 if they know your exact location. If they succeed, though, with at least 2 SL, they're going to hit your cover. Then they're going to do damage to the cover. So let's say they do 2d6, 2d6 damage, 2d6 plus 3 damage. Let's say they rolled a 9, 10, 11. Let's say they rolled 12 damage. What's going to happen is Iroh is, in fact, going to take 2 damage. Because they rolled 12 damage. Because they did 12 damage. They beat it by SL2. Beat by SL2. And then negative 10 AP for brick wall. For a total of 2 damage. Cover works if that's your jam. I would, again, I think having even just like a simple wording of like, yeah, this is in cover. Oh no, you've been hit by cover or not. Maybe that'll be a little bit work. Yeah, you won the wall bang. Really imbalanced system. Yeah, with cover is always odd in games because people either think cover is God or not, and the issue is cover is good. Fun fact: in any gunfight, you do not want to be not in cover. You never don't want to just be behind cover or something like that. Which is always kind of like the more universally great idea is to do that. Also, I would also make a note there, Ethical, by sheer technicality, if we're doing this, they would get a -4 to hit me if I'm behind a glass wall. Yeah, they would actually, no, they would get a -2 to hit me if I'm behind a glass window because it still counts as cover. Yeah, it would only be -2. Yes. Like, they still have a penalty to hit. Being like, oh man, there's a guy like standing at the glass wall. Whatever shall I do? Little notes, little things. Falling off the looking killer. The 1d6 damage every 2 yards you fall. Then momentum. This is the big thing. Momentum is the biggie. Momentum is the biggie smalls of this game. So everything has a natural tempo to it. Momentum is that tempo. It's a shared resource of the group that can be spent to create various effects during combat. So, for example, if you outnumber your opponents 2-1, +1. No, if you outnumber +2. If you outnumber your opponents 3-1. +3. Light fortifications, +1. Heavy cover, heavily fortified position, +2. One side is ambushed to the other, +2. One side has an advantage in mobility, such as having in a vehicle, 2. You want to gain momentum. You're going to start with a good deal of momentum, and I'm going to give you a secret. Enemies will always have more momentum than you. Mostly because of when it's going to come to like the terrain and the outnumbering features. Most of the time, probably there's going to be more people who outnumber you than, or are in like a position already, than not. That might be a design, just as a kind of a note. You're probably not going to be winning the momentum right away. So, anytime you win in a post-test, you get +1 momentum. Anytime you assess, you get +2 momentum. Anytime you wound an opponent, you gain +1 momentum. The big idea behind this is, as long as you are doing something, you should get more. This is the one part I'm not a huge fan of, is the idea of losing momentum. Which at the start of the fight, you know, if one side is more combative than the other, they are automatically considered dominant, and the other side is considered suppressed. If you are dominant, you get +1. If you're suppressed, you lose 1. Not a huge fan of this mechanic for one very simple reason, and it's what's going to happen is you're going to end up in a situation where it's not like, how do I want to word this? You might do something to gain momentum, and you're like, oh, cool, you know, I wounded this guy, and then you're going to lose it automatically because, sorry, they just are in a better, they're just more dudes than you, and it's like, okay, I would maybe do it like it's maybe even at like round 2 or like round 3, like not that kind of like initial round or not anything else. It's like, okay, end of every other round, I should. But more along the line, like there's a very distinct point at like round 5, this is when it starts happening. Like at round 5, clearly the tide of battle is beginning to shift in one person's favor. It hasn't only been a little bit more, but people are a bit wounded, people are losing, and I would say whoever has the most momentum is considered dominant. So if you have 3 badasses, you know, rip and tear across a fucking fight for the first bit, they have the momentum, the other guys are losing it. They're like, oh, we're fucked. Like, you know, that's kind of that panic is setting in. What would happen naturally is, oh, well, there's more of them, therefore you're losing your momentum, even though you technically have more of it. And they're gaining it. It's a little bit funky on that. Not, again, maybe seeing it in motion will be a little bit better, but it's a little bit funky in my opinion. Buddy, you made it on a fan because it's the part we always forget. Yeah, again, if it's always getting forget, like, understand, like, why is it being forgotten? We just don't deal with it, or we just don't think about it. But this is how you spend momentum. You can pummel someone down, beat opponent with brute strength. The post strength on success, your opponent gains the prone condition. One weird thing about pummel is technically you don't do any damage. I would maybe put that in as a note. Because like, oh, you beat an opponent down with brute strength. Technically, when I hear the term pummel, I'm thinking like I rush up to somebody and like fucking punch them in the fucking nose. Just bonk, and then they go on their ass. That's how I'm thinking about it. This makes it so that's not the case. So it's like, oh, I can get it. Like, okay. That's a little bit odd for me. That and they get momentum if you fuck up, but you can't gain momentum. Dirty trick, take advantage of the environment. You know, on a success, gain +1 momentum. So you can technically spend momentum to just get momentum back. So it's like, what? What? Huh? Like, again, a little bit odd in that regard. Additional effort +2 to any check. Like, this is fine to me. You can choose to spend additional momentum for every additional +1 momentum spent. So, hey, you know, I need to succeed at this shot. I'm going to spend 2 of them on momentum. Oh no! We need to oh no! We have to perform additional action. Like, I like these bottom ones. These upper 2 are a little bit funky. I think I know what you're going for with pummel. I get the idea. Dirty trick feels weird because you just spend it to get it. Yeah, shove or trip. I would even say like knockdown or something like that could also work. You know, encumbrance, yeah, so most of the ideas behind encumbrance is just up to your strength modifier, up to your strength in some variety. So here, I got up exactly to what I needed. 9, I have 9 strength. Of course, I have 9 encumbrance. I am perfectly fine. I take 0 penalty to my dodging or my speed. And generally speaking, though, it's a little bit, encumbrance is pretty damn tight at some point. Unless you take things to increase your, it's like, damn, zam. Yeah, like, so blinded, -1. Yo, we have our basic one, so note after condition. Remember how many instances you have. 2 blinded conditions would be written as blinded 2. So, almost chuck sand in your eyes. Oh no! -1 any checks you see when blinded move at the end of every round. So if I flashbang you, you're going to have a bunch of problems. Oh no! Burning. You're on fire. This sucks. You don't like being on fire. You know, you're entangled. You're exhausted. You are scared. You're panic. You know, you're panicking. This is one of the kind of the hiding out of sight of any opponents. Again, one exhausted condition. Exhausted is kind of the big one. You're physically, mentally fatigued, except for -1 until you can rest. This is like, okay. Fear is also a little bit weird because fear leads into panic. Because fear leads into panic, which leads into exhausted. Like, all those kind of lead into each other. Stunned, prone, pretty standard. I would say for the momentum thing, maybe make prone a little bit bigger or make this ability a little bit bigger. Because prone is like, prone's useful, but it's like, why would I spend a full momentum putting you on prone? So, getting hit. This is the big thing. Combat is fast and deadly. It can debilitate you. So, oh no, everybody. When you're injured, note how much damage you took and consult the following tape. Final wound level. Oh no. Oh no. We're not having a good time. So, subtract your wound level from your frame, your wound severity. So, I have taken, oh no, everybody, I have taken 5 damage. Wound level 2. Because Iroh has a frame of 4, he's not going to take anything. He's not really going to start seeing like a lot of damage from pain until about 12 to 15 damage over because of how it works. Sort of. So let's say, for example, I take 4 damage. Actually, I read that wrong. Sorry. Let's say I take 5 damage. So wound level from your frame. This is the wound severity. So that would be, it would be 5 minus 4 would be -1. It would be crippling. Pain 5. I'm going to die most likely. Whoopsie doopsie. Whoops. Misread that. This is one of those things where it makes sense. It's a little bit funky. Because your frame is never really going to be high. Like, technically, you can maybe, if you power level, you power jack this up, you might be able to get something like a frame of, like, 6, maybe. But even then, like, if you take 2 damage with frame 6, you're still going to take a minor wound. If you take 6 damage, you're pretty fucked. You take even a little bit of damage. One of the big things, though, if you take pretty much any remote amount of damage, you're not having a good time. Even if you just take 1 damage, it's suddenly, like, oh no, my frame is 3. I've only taken a minor wound. Like, it's damage bad. Damage real bad, actually. Damn. Except for penalty actually equal to your pain until combat ended, until you get medical treatment. Various severity effects. Generally speaking, this is rocket tag. Okay, god damn it, keep this. Yeah, this is one thing that's a little bit wonky to me, because it's your damage taken. Your damage taken equals your wound level, and your wound level minus, actually it's your frame, very specifically your frame minus your wound level. Okay. And your wound level, if I can fucking spell, minus frame equal severity, which equals pain value. So if I take 5 damage, I have a 2 wound level. Then it would be 2 minus 4 equal plus 2. Actually, no, it would be equal -2. And that would mean, no, that'd be plus 2. What am I talking about? It's frame minus wound levels. Frame minus wound level. God damn it. frame minus wound level, so that'd be 4 minus 2 equal 2, and then from there you would end up having a 2, which would just be a major wound. There we go. Few steps there. Again, an example would probably be nice. You can probably slap a small example like right there. I'm a very visual person when it comes to things like that. I like it when I can see it in action, being like, okay, this makes sense to me. So it's like, all right, this is why I fucked up some things even looking through here, just because there's a lot of, A to B and C to D. Now, mind you, one thing too is different weapon attacks actually have different wounding values. So slashing someone, you're going to get a +1 to the wounding value, but stabbing attack's going to be wounding +2. Which is kind of odd, because if, let's say, I take a level 1 wound, I say my wound level is 1, if I'm stabbing you, it's now wound level 3. So there's a lot of little parts to this, which could get a little bit wonky to people. But these are the important things. If you take a major wound, you'll roll a test against con or suffer the stun condition. No. Severe, but your speed is immediately halved. You can no longer dodge. Severe wound, but your save versus con will immediately fall unconscious. Save versus con -2 failure, you die instantly. Yeah, so there isn't actually any health. There isn't anything like, oh, I have 40 health HP or something. No, what it is these. You're going to be slowly getting up to the fact that you're crippled or you've taken a mortal wound. This is actually how you really die in this game. And it's pretty easy to die. It's very easy to get a severe wound. Again, severe is only a 0. You gotta remember that. So even if your frame is 4, taking 8 to 11 damage is already going to put you at severe. And that severe is, you might fall unconscious immediately. If you take 12 damage, suddenly that's a 5, and that means you're at a +1, which means like, oh, actually you're a -1, which means you're crippled, which you're automatically, you're fucked. And mortal is even easier to get a hold of. Like, taking multiple wounds, you just with the worst severity. Crippling wound or major wound, you cannot increase your severity. That's when that's like, okay. Yeah, so a little bit here. If you suffer a wound, a minor or lower, only 1 step below your current state, test against con failure, your current severity increases by 1 step. So, for example, let's say I take a major wound. Let's say I'm at kind of like a major wound. I take a minor wound. It might promote up to a severe wound. Pretty simple. Yeah. Beater. I need beater. Talking about games, what do you think about action points in TTRPGs? They work. Yeah, you gotta be. The big thing is, there's 2 things you always gotta worry about when it comes to action points. The first thing is, how do I maximize my action points, and what can I do with all my action points? That's the big thing when it comes to action points in general, because whoever acts first or has the most options is usually going to be the best thing to do. Again, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but the idea of value is very important. Because even things like, for example, even Undying Metal, take the higher damage you're doing, like 2d6 plus 1 pierce damage is pretty good. But with like a sword, I hit you with a fucking sword, or let's say I hit you for 7 damage. Like 7 damage minimum. Then because it's a slashing attack, it's going to be a fucking 4. If you're not kind of jacked already, you might be, suffering from a crippling wound or a severe wound within a single attack. So you kind of want to bump up your damage as much as you can. But this is also a game where it's rocket tag. It really is rocket tag. And that's something you kind of got to expect. So weapons are the basic way of doing things. Ranged weapons, you have your basic damage on a successful hit. Melee weapons add +1 to damage for every point of strength above 8, and subtract 1 for every point below 8. So technically, this would be, I believe I did my sword correctly. Let me double check my sword. Yes, I did do my sword correctly. But yes, now we also have things, such as, how much you can get bonus from aiming. What's the recoil? For every multiple of recoil you beat the attack by, you score another hit. So it's like, okay, for how heavy and bulky the weapon is, with the reach of the melee weapon, how much ammo can be using. It's what the strength requirement. Don't have it? Well, you're gonna need strength. Strength is really valuable, by the way. You should, strength is always going to be always going to be useful in this system. And if you want to ever become fight man, then strength is going to get at least a 9 at a minimum, I think, for a lot of people. So we'll use, for example, our pistol, for example, here. Pistol does 2d6 plus 1, has a +2 aim, so I can aim for 2 rounds, go bang. And every time I beat by 2, so let's say I just roll +0, bang, I've only hit you once, oh no. I roll, let's say, an SL4, I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to be able to roll damage again. You suffered another hit, and then another hit. Technically, I might hit you 3 times if I roll exceedingly well with a handgun. Some of them are going to be even easier. For example, the shotgun, which enables you to roll an insane number of damage because you have a fucking shotgun. Recoil is very good. You beat the attack by, you score another hit. Arguably, if you want to be, really maximized, try to reduce recoil on, certain weapons to just a bare minimum, such as the heavy pistol. Which allows you to, hit a single button, and then everyone dies. Yeah, pocket pistol, the target pistol. Yeah, kind of odd to me, it's wounding -1 on this one, but not the pocket pistol. But I guess it's because the damage is lower and the aim is higher. A little bit weird for that. That's just me, though. I can't believe Ethical added the combat wheelchair to the game. And of course, we have our basic, kind of more long gun weapons: shotgun, assault rifle, SMG, battle rifle. SMG is going to kill you in one burst. An SMG will kill you pretty damn quickly. And technically, an SMG is cheaper than an assault rifle. Just realize that. And technically, the assault rifle is better. So it's more expensive. So bear that in mind, everybody. Remember, kids, your AK-47's better than anything. Melee. Go sicko mode and start beating the shit out of people with unarmed. Sometimes maybe go for brass knuckles. Go nuts. Go have fun. We have our basic melee blade weapons. I chose to get a sword because swords are cool. It has average length, 4 encumbrance, 8 strength, +1 parry. And I can choose to stab with it to allow me to do bigger things. Technically, a chainsaw is cheaper than a sword, but chainsaw has the unfortunate reality of being a chainsaw. Machete, or a felling axe, which a felling axe, a good felling axe is going to fuck your day up, by the way. That's one good hit with that thing and you're dead. Pistol, and then we have pistol whipping, crowbars. You can play... Don't worry, everybody. You can play Gordon Freeman in this game, I've learned. You just want a crowbar max, you can, everybody. And don't worry, it's available. You can also play Andrew Ryan with a golf club and just beat people to death that way. Some basic, pole weapons, stabs, survival spears, just a spear. This is the one gimmick weapon I saw. Yeah. Which is the monowire. I thought about using the monowire because it looked kind of neat. 1600 is very expensive, but man, would it be worth it. One thing I do enjoy is that almost every single weapon can actually get augmented a little bit. Each of them have kind of fun tags. I will talk about you in a bit. But yeah, this is what I mean by some of the gear modification stuff. I actually quite enjoy this. I think this is pretty cool. So it's oh, hey, I want an ornate weapon, or I want an ugly weapon, make it cheaper. I want a high-powered firearm weapon. I want an agile weapon. I do enjoy that. It does... excuse me. It does make, a relatively small list of equipment feel a lot bigger because you can augment things and make it a little bit cooler. I like that quite a bit. That does technically mean you can make your crowbar an ornate crowbar and beat the shit out of people with it better. Or you can make just jack up your crowbar to be the greatest crowbar in human history because it's only worth 10. Again, am I saying that the crowbar is an overpowered weapon? Yes. technically, if you want to be very specific about it, can you mod a pistol? Technically, I guess you could. Freeman's crowbar. Don't you understand? I mean, by sheer technicality, I guess you could. I don't think you could because it doesn't have a price. Because a pistol whip is just by the virtue of having a pistol. Though, if you want to be really specific about things, this is where things get a little bit wonky. The pistol whip does technically, kind of work a little bit odd because you end up in a situation like, oh, here's this. Like, if I pistol whip you with a heavy pistol, it would technically be strength 6 with higher encumbrance, but if I select the thing that make it do more damage, does my pistol whip get better? Or do I have to buy a separate augment for my pistol whip? And that would be my question. Brutal bolt can't have bolt action single shot. Armor. So one of the big things with the armor, for example, is that these are all the armor. It's never covered anywhere, and this is another thing ethical, wink wink. Is nothing is saying you can't wear armor on top of one another outside of just the encumbrance value. This does, however, imply very graciously that if you have the money for it, do safe weave clothing over everything. Ballistic vest plus safe weave clothing is only going to set you back about 450, because the first one, you kind of see here with flexible. First number is. Let's see, the first number under AP is only effective against bullets, second number is used for everything else. So the ballistic vest, for example, is going to do is going to block 10 damage from a firearm. However, it's going to block 3 damage from everything else. Safe weave clothing is 4, because the ballistic vest only covers your body and your vitals. Safe weave covers your arms and legs. So again, the optimal way of looking at things is to have safe weave clothing under a ballistic vest. Which allows you to be like, oh no, someone's, bang, you've taken 10 damage. Like, no, I haven't. So unless they're aiming at things, damage is going to be pretty low if you just have a basic vest on. You also get some odd ones when it comes to like level 3 plate carriers, or just a level 3 plate, which you can just put in a plate carrier to just make sure that you have a pretty high value. Well, I would put that under there as like a note, just to make it a little bit more, or build out this system a little bit more. Again, that's kind of like a one thing, like give it a little bit more. Also, the fact that you have to buy individual ammo and magazines, and these, mind you, these magazines also, mind you, are based on your encumbrance rating. Yeah, my encumbrance rating is very, very tight because of this. Because technically, like, you can have one pistol magazine with, again, a couple shots in it, but, like, yeah, that's still 15. Yeah, it costs a little bit. It's like, that's a little bit funky. Now, I don't know if I'm a fan of this, but that's just might be me. Obviously, we have our the two drugs of choice, cocaine and meth. Rocket fuel pumped directly into your veins, don't worry. Roll the average +1 willpower test and whether it would be smart to think about you or your party's course of action. On a failure, you just go. Yeah, it's cool. Again, we got all our gear modification stuff, caseless ammo, extra barrel, reliable, unreliable, unwieldy, high caliber stuff. Technically, you can modify your ammo, no less, to make it do something different. You want to have ferric ammo, you can't. Hollow point ammo, go for it. You just want to have fucking slugs, go for it. I can't stop you. Buy those dumb knives for magazines. Because by sheer technicality, I guess you would count it as a melee modification for the pistol weapon. Now, if you really want to be weird about it, if you really want to be a dick about it, you can make a high frequency pistol whip. Nothing is saying you can't do a high frequency pistol whip just because it would be funny. And you don't actually list any price for this. So let's think of oh, I get it. So technically, for $1,000, you can slap a burst engine on your handgun and pistol whip as Jetstream Sam. Just go pong. Ah. All right, yeah, cool. We can do superior. We can do lightweight, big, balanced weapons. All right. Yeah, like, yes, here's my big gun. Here's my big iron, everybody. With a big iron on it. Have a pistol whip with a big iron. Yeah. Little things. And then obviously we have our, our cybernetics. Really, we only have the single cybernetic. Reduce wounding any piercing stabbing damage by 2 to a maximum of 0. This applies any after wounding modifiers. We don't have any cybernetics yet. So my final opinion on Undying Metal. Cool. Obviously we need more. We need more things to kind of flesh things out. Really the big thing I'm noticing like right now is very, very deadly. Yeah, it's like technically, if you want to burst engine pistol whip, you can. I would say things like, I think the big thing about this game is one, you obviously need just more stuff in it because again, this is just the vertical slice of the combat playtest. Which, if it's working, it would be good. I would say clean up things like this or like add examples. Like you have room for some examples. I would say add some examples here and there. For people like me, because I'm a dumbass and I like examples, cover could probably see a little bit of changing. I would say make it either like a raw, like to hit or something. Like you just get a penalty, but it's the idea of, how do I want to word this? It would be the idea of like a penalty to hit the cover. So let's say it's like a -2, but if let's say you need to hit them is a 0, or whatever. I'm trying to think of the top of my head. Like SL0, you hit, for example, but they have a +1. You would hit the cover, but not them necessarily. There's an answer with cover. Do I know what it is? I don't know. Feel free to think about it. I think this system can work overall. I think it can work. I think it's mostly this that needs maybe a little bit of cleaning up. That's really all I can really say there. Momentum. I like momentum. I like the idea behind momentum. I would like more things here though. Maybe reworking some of these a little bit to make it I don't know, make spending momentum feel like you're spending momentum, like you're, again, because if you describe it as the tempo of the fight. So maybe even you can even maybe tie to like some cybernetics are going to give you momentum. Again, make it feel like if you have the momentum, you have the initiative. You are the ones like clearly in the kind of with an advantage currently. And it's like, oh shit, we're being overrun, we're being overwhelmed, things are going wrong. You can maybe tie it to like kind of the idea of like you're causing enemies to start panicking. Because nobody wants to die. Always remember that. Nobody wants to die. So if you have some basic enemies, it's we clearly have the momentum. We've clearly gained it. We can spend a little momentum and people start panicking a little bit. People start going a little bit wonky. It's because, it's like, oh, someone's freaking out. People are going wrong. There's an answer here. But it sounds like people are spending it, which is good. That's very good, though. That's working pretty good. Again, expand the system out maybe a little bit more. I think that would be like a big thing. Encumbrance is a little bit odd. It's very tight. Very tight. So it's like you don't really want to get any weapon. Like you don't really want to get anything. That's why safe weave clothing is really good because it's 0 encumbrance. Like anything else is like, oh well, just max the highest strength as possible, or get things to increase that. Maybe give a little bit more wiggle room there. This just needs like an example or something just to like really spell it out. That'd be my thing. These were honestly, if this ship with just these weapons here, I'd be okay because you have all of the modifications. You have all the gear modifications. I would say maybe add like maybe a few more. Maybe a few more guns, like a revolver, for example, or some more like gimmick. I wouldn't say gimmick weapons, but more along the idea of like, here's some stranger weapons to kind of play with. Here's some more kind of bizarre ones. I would say more. I'd say more midline long guns would be good. Even down to like, here's a jank ass shotgun that like, you know, it's very easy to acquire, but it's kind of a shithole. Like it's gonna break very quickly, but like this is a homemade shotgun and things like that. I think that could be kind of fun. I think that would be a little bit here to encourage long gun use because pistols are already pretty good and do their job pretty reliably. Long guns feel a little bit, I wouldn't say undervalued, but thank you for subscribing, Rook Unlimited. Thank you very much. Long gun or a musket. That would be the idea of like encumbrance. It's like it's mostly like the idea because it's like you have such you special message somebody to subscribe. I should. It's just that like you want to protect yourself, so it's like everyone's just going to select things like light. It's just gonna be like lightweight everything, just reduce the encumbrance. So it's like I could kind of see that being kind of an issue if you're like me and a fucking gear monkey. So yeah, generally speaking, that's really it. Armor, I'd say either in your current state of affairs, either go 110% on armor or pull it back. I like the ideas. I like the concepts of armor. You know, zero. I will say this: Zombie Dark 30 broke me a little bit, but I'm like, all right, I'm in. I kind of like the idea behind this. Even things like, yeah, technically what I should have done is got a tactical vest because that's a little bit more efficient. But like, I like the idea behind the armor. Maybe commit a little bit more to it or pull it back. That's kind of the idea. Go 110% on the drugs. You obviously care about it, so do it. Maybe abstract the ammo out a bit. Or maybe make encumbrance a little bit lighter on like pistol magazines, because what's going to happen here is that this isn't going to be, I can tell you this right now, this isn't going to be, oh cool, gotta really, you know, double check everything. It's going to be, fuck, yeah, just ignore the pistol magazine encumbrance. It's fine. That's what's going to happen majority of the time. So it's like, maybe use like pistol magazine, you know, comes with a full complement of ammo or something like that, or make it a little bit more special when you can jack up the price, because at the end of the day, most of these magazines are going to be 6, so it'd be 45 for a fully loaded magazine. It's going to be it's going to be 95 for a fully loaded light rifle magazine. Little things like that. You could probably just add in the ammo, make life a lot easier. But yeah, gear modifications, all this. If you go 100% on the armor, I would say add in armor mods. Yeah, strength plus half COD. That's pretty good. I think that gives people a little bit more to work with. Mostly because it's going to encourage people to want to take some heavier gear a little bit, or make it so they're not like, I am scared of taking a single thing because of like my one magazine, you know, my one pistol magazine is, you know, technically, you know, one magazine is worth, you know, a third of a pit of my heavy handgun. Like that's a little bit weird, but okay. Let's see, what's our second game? What do we want to go over our second game? That's actually pretty accurate depending on what kind of AK you end up getting. Let's see. Let's roll the dice. Let's roll the dice. It's on top of the list, so we'll do that one. Welcome to Bladu Drive. Bladu Drive. Yes. I don't know if Jort is here, but yes, we're going over Blood Drive now. This is by a special man named Jort. Jort is, I believe, to be Israeli. He may all... I believe he is Israeli. Let me bring him up real fast because Jort's a nice guy every now and again. Wait a second. Rook, that's not you. You're not. Let me bring up Jort here real fast. Jort, my man, Twitter. Not Jort's the cat. Yeah, let's go to Twitter, everyone. We gotta go back to Twitter. Back to Twitter. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Night City. God damn it. Where's Jorty boy? Jort man, Randy Savage. There we go. Welcome to Jort, I have several questions, but yeah, okay, regardless of my many questions of can we get much higher? Yes, here's Jort. He's working on a game called Blood Drive. Cool, look at, very pretty. He is an art man. That's what he does. Jort is art man. Jort doesn't have a Twitch. It's confirmed to be Israeliness. What's not me? Okay, nice. Yeah, he's an artist. He actually does. The big idea behind Blood Drive is that he's going to be doing most of the art himself, which I think is pretty cool. As you can kind of see here, he's also a Guilty Gear shit poster. So obviously he's either goblinoid or like somewhat around the middle. As you see, Gall bad guy, beard get, Bridget, Bugatti. Yeah, welcome to Jort, my main man, a Guilty Gear shit poster, along with a man who never shuts up about Breaking Bad. I gotta give the man credit because he does have his thing that he enjoys, otherwise known as shit posting. Mostly Guilty Gear shit, but I didn't realize how much Guilty Gear this man is. This is actually quite impressive. Yeah, no, this is very impressive. Jorty. Joe Brisket. Let me see if I can find Brisket again. Sugar Lair. Again, as you can kind of see, Bob's Hollow Knight character, and then we have basic Sky Reaver grunts. Chaos. Brisket, obviously because we like Bridget. Yeah, no, this is the guy working on Primal Surge. Now, you may be wondering, Notepad, his artwork is so nice. His artwork is so pretty. What's the catch? What's the thing? Well, couldn't really find too much on him. He's mostly on DeviantArt. Let's look at DeviantArt, everybody. Yeah, we're on DeviantArt now. That's his name is literally called Can We Get Much Higher? He likes the stars, got some watchers. What's his gallery? Oh god, he's an anime nerd. Let's look at his old art, shall we? Let's go further back. Oh wow. You can see Bugbear Brutes. You can see like things like the Angelus, Ape Homunculus. This is kind of where I think he's been working on Blood Drive for at least a while. We need to go further back. There we go. This is what we're looking. Oh Jesus. No, all deviations. Let's go all the way back. Jort, we must learn everything about you. Ulf sewing. We could see mostly character designs, things like that. Again, I respect the guy. He's clearly I do enjoy I meme on Jort a lot. think he's a funny man, but his artwork is very pretty, very clearly pretty. And I do enjoy it. But yeah, he's just a delirious shit poster, and I don't trust him at all. Jordan Corbino, yes. Yeah, there we go. So this is who we're going to be working with. Now, Blood Drive. This is his most latest version that he sent me about the Blood Drive. And I'm going to say this, Jort, my man, what the fuck, man? Looks like ass. So, what's the main gimmick behind Blood Drive? Well, the main gimmick behind Blood Drive is pretty simple. This, mostly his artwork. And I respect that. I respect that immensely. Now, obviously, we're going to have to bring in Dusty Git, the man, the myth, the legend. As you can see, his cock size is maximized. His pain level is Walter White tier. You can kind of see all the stats. Now, if you see over here a little bit, you may notice something that's a little bit there. This is for me mostly, but you can kind of see all his perks and all his skills. So, I'm going to do my best to actually kind of like get everything here because it's a very odd game in that regard. So here's character creation. Build composed of your level, attribute, path, subpath, perks, momentum, power, skills, gear. Now, additionally, a character equipped with living gear will have access to blood drives. You throw it at us real quick. Like, here's the basics. It's a 2d6 game. Die roll, no dice are set, no spies specified. Vault rolls 2d6. Everything is played out on a square grid. For some reason, social encounters occur either with or without a grid. I don't know why that has to be specified. But yeah, that's the basics of the game. Cool. Okay, cool. Basic idea. 10 levels in total, 1, 4, and 7. Major milestones. Paths are kind of like the main thing with this game. Like, this is kind of like you would call like a class. Like, your class. But you can actually, kind of mix and match these into about to, get more passives for it, you're about to get more abilities for it, and you're going to be able to invest a lot more into it. That's kind of the point. Each time you put a point in a path, they choose another one of its passive effects. Player puts a point in their second path before level 4 or third before level 7. You can only choose person powers from that path. Cool. Like, this is kind of neat. You're allowed to very much invest in different classes. They don't put the classes in the actual PDF. There's none of the classes are here. These are quite important. Now, I'm going to kind of go over these just to give you a basic idea. Hunter is kind of like the man who kills things. Trappers, rangers, wardens, soldiers, bastions, champions, berserkers, rogues, stalkers, wilders, and menders, witches, bonders. Now, this doesn't seem like, oh, this is fine. The problem is, he doesn't state, but all of these do actually give you proficiency in various equipment, which is very important. They increase things like what your raw power is, your bloodlust, your rage. I did not know this originally. I thought this was just going to be in here. It is not. It is not. Oh, yeah, I don't think you guys quite understand. I will find you. I will hunt you down to the bitter end. There will be no survivors. Oh, Jesus, people are rolling. Yeah, so I would say it borrows a little bit from Glog in a way. That's kind of it's completely different from Glog. However, it's kind of like the idea that you're allowed to put points in individual paths. Skills are not really a thing because this is where you learn about skills. It's like at level 1, you choose a background. Players' number of skill points equal to their willpower attributes. Can be either spent on proficiency in a skill or increase their proficiency in a given skill. Cool, up to a maximum of a tier 3. Oh, for each point, player rolls an additional die on a skills die roll. Oh, that's kind of cool. Well, they're not quite, let's say, here's where you learn about skills. On page 40, actually no, on page 38, you learn what the skills do. Yeah, page 38 of 40 is where you learn where the actual skills are, and I don't even think I quite did the skills correctly, because I think I only have like it being a proficiency because my willpower is as low as it is. Yeah, I was like a little bit like, what the fuck? Yeah, you kind of get it right away, and it's like, okay, this is here, and then we got all the way back up. Yeah, a little bit funky in that regard. You know, we have our various momentum powers, blood drives, perks, gear, and living gear. You could argue that one of the main gimmicks is kind of the idea of this living gear. It's armor made of beast flesh that costs a certain amount of health used to actually use, grants players assorted abilities. Cool, this is neat. Static permanent benefits are perks, level 1 with 1 perk, and every additional perk every turn. Every level that should be. Perk path was only available to that perk, generic perks. Cool, neat, awesome. Blood drives, momentum powers. Now, one of the big things is you're always going to start with 3-3-2-2-2-2. You're always going to end up with this being your basic assortment. This is your basic line. You're going to choose 3 momentum powers, 1 perk, 1 passive, and their starting gear and money. So, attribute powers again every level. Player will always have level plus 2 powers, number of that. Now, this doesn't seem very big, but you can do some slight editing of it. Very slight. Kind of see like here. And, but these numbers seem pretty low. They are pretty low. Like, your initial character is not going to be a lot. However, they, for some reason, Jort, my brother in Christ, this is what each point does. Each point of might is all of these different things. Yeah, this is 3 point, pretty much 1.5 glancing blow damage per day, plus 1 capacity, 5 HP per point, plus 1 armor, -1 damage, finesse, plus 1 all 2 hit rolls, half a belt slot for your finesse, more evasion points, more initiative points, or a 3rd speed per point, 1.5 to magic damage rolls per point. Willpower, 1 max momentum per point, more momentum gain on kill AoE, more resolve per point. Each of these have a shit ton of things, and there's a lot of derived attributes as well. It's like, Jesus Christ almighty. Yeah, no side go below. I ended up taking like willpower lower because I didn't quite understand the value of willpower. I'm like, oh, willpower, like this seems, I'm going to get some more. It's going to be fun. No, willpower's good. 3x2. Yeah, it's... I kind of read it now. This is where things start getting also a little bit weird, my man. We have our basic attributes, but let's just kind of do it. Let's kind of give you an idea of like this is character progression. We have our blood pool, reservoir of every level carries a reservoir of health they can use exclusively to pay for living gear. Blood pool is equal to the level times 2, increased by instinct and various perks. So it's like, all right, so I have my blood pool here. Then we have our wealth. Now, if you play as barbarians, you ignore this, but also don't ignore this. You get naked with either a weapon or a shield and 2-hander, or a bow and a knife. However, level 1 players start with the following. Pick 2, 1 weapon, 1 shield, 2 one-handed weapons, a 2-handed weapon, 1 ranged weapon, light or medium armor, enough food for a week, 100 imperial coins. This is just laid out poorly. Like, brother, please. Now, the big thing is like there is technically two currencies. There's the blood economy, because you can, that's one of the big things with the setting is that your blood is worth something, and then you have the coin economy, and technically the teeth economy. Generally speaking, imperial coins are kind of like what I would see to be as like the default currency. That's kind of the big idea. Blood is also its own thing. Now, if you can see this, why I wanted to talk about the classes a little bit first is each of these classes do come with different things. Like, oh, you have proficiency with heavy armor, one-handed shield, 2-handed melee throwing. It just tells you this. And at first, like my entire thing, I actually had a thing already set up, but I had to change it because I realized that things were different. And it's like, oh, light or medium armor. They chose that for you. There's a lot about society. Now, our basic attributes: strength, vitality, finesse, agility, willpower, and instinct. Now, Jort, we're going to talk about something. It's called the strength damage modifier. Yeah, are you ready? Fucking tell me what the fuck the strength damage modifier is, because it ain't strength. Because, fun fact, strength isn't strength. You changed it to might. Yeah, no, technically strength is might and might is strength. They're the same thing, they're interchangeable. I got really fucking confused, though. I was hunting for the SDM the entire time I was reading this. And they never tell you what the SDM is. They just say SDM plus armor unarmored, SDM, SDM. I'm like, okay, is this going to be like a calculation? Is this like something that I have to kind of like reference? Is this like clearly, because they clearly make it out to be like, oh, it's something important. Like this, they bold it, they do everything. It's like, okay, this has got to be something big. What I think it is this. I think this is your SDM. So if like, let's say, because I have two might / strength, my SDM equals 4. My SDM is 4. I think that's the case. I'm not 100% sure. It's a little bit like, oh geez, like am I doing something wrong? And that's why I was like, okay, he has confirmed SDM is something. He has confirmed it, everybody. Yeah, Jordan's rating is sanity. Yeah. I was like, really like desperate. I'm like, what are the, like, am I doing something wrong? Is there, the reason I actually didn't get to comic actually last night, one of the other ones from Caffeine actually, I didn't get the comic because this took me about an hour and a half to really go through. I'm like, oh, it's only 40 pages. This is going to be simple. It took me an hour and a half to go through just to make a character, just because I'm like, okay, I'm like, I lost something. I went through a different thing. And I'm like, wait a second, then that can augment this, but that can't augment that. I got really confused with might and strength being two different things. I thought might was something completely different for half this time. Then it kind of dawned on me, and then I'm like, wait a second, because I didn't download this right away. I'm like, oh, this is just kind of like a reference document. This is not a reference document. This is mandatory. But yeah, this is what it means by like, with all of my current stats the way they are, this is all the derived values of them. This is what I ended up kind of having to kind of determine of everything. And I think I did most everything right. One thing I will say is willpower is very fucking valuable, and you really shouldn't. You cannot really lower any of these at all. Like, I should not have lowered willpower, and we'll get to why that's the case a little bit later, but it's like, there's a lot of stuff here, and I was really kind of fucked up. The Real Salties. Hello, the Real Salties. We are going over user-submitted games. Most accurately, we're going over a game called Blood Drive by one of my followers named Jort. It's kind of a mess, but we appreciate Jort, everybody. Everybody clap for Jort. So, okay, so we then immediately go into combat. This is a combat game. This is one thing you have to remember. This is not a really, I'm not going to really assume this is going to be a role-playing heavy game, or this is not going to be a really exciting, TTRPG about the intricate nature of, no, this is a game about finding the biggest, scariest monster you can, jumping at it, and then stabbing them to death. And then eating them, probably. And then taking its blood. And then wearing its skin. Twice. Like, that's what this game is about. I mean, his full one is the full title, technically, is Blood Drive Primal Combat, RPG. Which I am 110% on board for games that have a very strict focus. I am fine with games like that. It's like, I've always told people, like, don't hesitate to make something with, like, a singular focus that does one thing. That's fine. It's, like, understand people maybe want to do something different for it. It's not going to be for everybody, but that's okay. That's okay. Just about anything isn't made for everybody, and if you want to just make a combat game, that's cool. If you want to make just a social game, that's cool. You gotta know what you're doing. I would love to learn how to make a TTRPG. Making a TTRPGs are fun and exciting, and you will not definitely be sad like the rest of us. There's currently an argument going on in my server because I cucked out one of Caffeine's games because of this. This one, yep. Yeah, sad like the rest of us. Yeah, it's great. So, yeah, combat is pretty, 2d6 plus your initiative modifier. Determine your initiative score, which, again, initiative score is, if we go over here, is tied to your, not this, which finesse is already important. You need finesse. Your agility. So it's pretty much 2d6 plus agility, plus with any other modifier to initiative. Oh no, if you've ambushed a character. Also, Jort, my man, fucking capitalize. Capitalize your fucking capitalize. My brother in Christ, please. I'm begging you. Just capitalize. Just readjust myself here real fast as I have a fucking stroke because people don't capitalize their words. Yeah. Why you got bigger all of a sudden? Are you now broke? I've broken something. Oh no. Oh no! Yeah. So, ambush, round, we have our basic turns. So, most everybody's going to have a combat action, a move action, and a swift action, as well as a free action. Technically, you're going to be able to do about 3 different actions. However, movement is kind of its own thing. Swift actions are its own thing. Combat actions really are the main meat of your turn. And you can perform in any orders, but once an action is performed, another action cannot be started until it is fully resolved. You can delay your initiative if you want. Momentum is the big thing in this game. Yes, we're back with momentum, everybody. Now, one of the big things with momentum is this is how you pay for things. However, you only have momentum equal to your willpower, I believe. Momentum cap as well as the momentum gain AoE. Your momentum cap is very low if you choose not to. And if you have willpower 1, you don't really have access to this resource as much. Spending willpower squares in each direction, I trigger and resolve immediately. Yeah, which having really high willpower is pretty good because you can give everybody else momentum. But at the start of it, can generate additional. If you perform charge, you wound an enemy, killing an enemy with melee attack, killing an enemy with range attack, killing an enemy with special path conditions. Guild up more. Here's the wounded thing. This game does derive a little bit from 4th edition. Fuck is this? Oh, nice. I have to remember that. But yeah, no, it's like, this does derive a little bit from 4th edition, and Jort, you can confirm or deny that if you want. But you kind of have your wounded threshold, which things happen at the wounded threshold at some points. You have your pop value, which is the enemy's wounded threshold, and the number of hands you have. Go hands. Basic attack, weapon art, momentum power, or blood drive, movement action, swift action, interrupting. The best way to think about it is a combat action is me beating the shit out of you. A movement action is me running at you, and a swift action is usually using powers or drawing a knife to stab you with. You have the basic interrupt, perform interrupt action once per round, which is a different action, by the way. You can't use interrupt with different names during a round if you like. There's a lot here, and it's just this, by the way. You don't really get that much to work with. Oh, don't worry. We do get attacks of opportunity, which the strength damage modifier, which is 1.5 or 2 if you're wielding a two-handed weapon, but not the SDM. Do you understand why I was getting a little bit weirded out? I'm like, oh, well, he keeps saying SDM, SDM. So, strength damage modifier, that has to be something different then, because he didn't put SDM down. So that's why I was hunting for fucking SDM. I was looking at different places for it to the point I'm like, there has to be an answer here. I'm going insane. Like, call me silly all you want, but it was just that little doubt in the back of my head. I'm like, wait a moment. Wait a fucking second. Jort was gaslighting me the entire fucking time reading this. Yeah, momentum powers. Every power is defined momentum cost, action cost. Now, I'm going to give you an example. These are some of the abilities I took. One of these would be something like split shot. I can perform a missile attack against two targets within range 3 of one another. It costs me 1 momentum, and obviously a missile into combat action. So if I, pull, it's one of those things is I spend my momentum, and then I perform a missile attack, and that's it. These are usually just, if you have the cost, you can spend the thing, because you might end up with things such as switch position. Yeah, as long as I have a missile in a combat action, I can move up to 2 squares, then I perform a missile attack. That's just an option, that's a new action I can now do. I'm able to maneuver a lot easier. Or, hey, I want to do a running shot, which costs me a momentum, but I perform a missile attack, then I run away. So it's like, cool, there's clearly a lot of little options here, and this is what kind of like what a perk would be, look like. Like, okay, cool. Now, blood drives are tied to living tools. Now, this is one thing with living tools. Is you don't get them. Like, this is like one thing that's kind of odd about this. Is it may seem like, oh, well, blood drive, living tools are cool. That's kind of clearly a thing. They never really tell you about how to get them. They just say like, oh, it's here. I didn't know if it was like you just get them automatically. There's no sample character or anything. And I'm like, do I have to buy these? Do I have to invest in them? And even if I wanted to, I can't because I don't have the correct skills. Because you just don't have enough. Like, you will never have enough of that unless you, like, deliberately, I wouldn't say gimp yourself, but, like oof. Like, okay. It's like, okay, I don't have the necessary equipment for this. I don't have the necessary hands to do this yet. Withdraw can spend, kind of moving away, more normal action. Normal movement, withdraw action. This is very grid based, so we like moving 1 squares, attacks of opportunity. Cool. I like having like dedicated actions for this. We have running. We have the entire very detailed charge section, which, Jort, my brother in Christ, please, for God's sakes, if you are listening, stop gaslighting me. Stop gaslighting me, please. I'm going insane. So, okay, so charging is you choose one, you move your max speed plus 1. You must move at least 3 squares. Must be straight or diagonal line. Pretty much it just has to go in a straight one. This does also imply that diagonals are legal. They are legal movement. Now, you're on target threat range. If any of these requirements are not met, the charge fails and the character's turn ends. Weirdly enough, this does mean that you can initiate a charge and then fail the charge and then stop. It's just nothing happens. I don't know if there's like trigger effects or like an enemy and like, oh, well, I want to do an interrupt action. The characters jumping up, do they qualify as a tool? You know, it's like I also for Harry Hobbito's like it was on the list. I actually have Star Wrath right here, by the way. Like Star Wrath was ready, but it was like 4:30 in the morning when I opened this up finally. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I'm so fucking tired. Blood Drive broke me. You know, +5. You know, this is one of the things like the first attack against additional die to its 2-hit roll because you can augment the number of dice you're going to be rolling and you perform, but you also increase your SDM by 0.5. I've noticed this a lot, which a lot of like 0.5, 1.5 times 1.25 and things like that. Please, do you understand why I was getting a little bit confused with like the SDMs and things like that? I was like, this has to be something different. Yeah, no, gain a point of momentum. Overdrive. Overdrive is you can pay well momentum and you add a die to the 2-hit and you add 0.5 to your SDM and you have to declare your overdrive using your using your momentum, which also activates onslaught. Onslaught's a completely different thing because if you activate it using your swift action upon entering the onslaught mode, you can buy basic melee attacks with momentum. This is very good and why having 1 willpower is crippling. Onslaught is useless, by the way. Onslaught is completely useless if you have 1 willpower. Unless you choose to buy up willpower later on, then it's like, okay, maybe not. Then we have Glancing Blows. Now, Glancing Blow is interesting. I like the idea. So, I need to hit somebody. Let's say somebody is trying to hit me. I have an evasion of 12. Let's say they have a 2d6 plus 2. So let's roll. Oh! 8, 9, 10. They've missed me, right? No, they haven't. They've instead hit a Glancing Blow. Because one of the big things is my evasion is 12. If you roll 3 less than that, pretty much 9 to 11, you've actually hit my you've glanced me. Not a deadly blow, but it's just a glancing blow, suffering damage equal to the half of the target's SDM. They're just GB value. Your GB value is half your SDM. If your SDM is 4, it's half of that. So it's like, okay, I would just hit 2 damage. Cool. But if its 2-hit matches the target's rigor or resolve, the attack's secondary effects also affect them. But they still just take the glancing damage. It's like, holy shit. Like, you know, majority of severe status effects disable allow, you know. There are a lot of actual equipment that says, oh, you can't use glancing blows. This is like a weird mechanic. Like, I get where you're going with this. I get it. I get it. I just don't know what the... You know, like, where are you going for this, my man? What's the direction? Oh, gee. Sending me the Rocky and Bullwinkle. Oh, God. No, don't look at that. Yeah, glancing blow seems kind of like an odd thing, you know. And then we have our various defenses. Now, mind you, evasion, armor, rigor, resolve. Now, these are 4 different kinds of defenses, which is kind of again kind of tied to 4th edition in a way. Evasion is pretty much your basic to hit or to dodge in most way. Armor is just the amount of damage you're going to be reducing. Almost all attack rolls. Rigor is your ability to withstand physical effects, and resolve is your mental effects. So, for example, oh no, someone's threatening my mind. Oh no! They rolled a 9. They beat my resolve. I'm fucked. Oh no, someone's trying to shove me. Oh no! They rolled an 8. They fail. I'm gonna take a grillion damage. I've taken, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 17 damage. I reduce it by my armor to only 5 damage. Cool. Easy enough to understand. Cool. Almost all attacks. Critical hits, and with 2 natural 6s. So, certain skill triggers score. Anytime you roll 2 6s, because this is just a 2d6 game, you're going to crit. When you crit, good job, everybody. You're going to do 1.5 damage times 1.5 damage. I believe it's rounding up. I rounded up for everything. I didn't really see any like clear like indication going there. Do not use decimals. I beg of you, people, stop using fucking decimals. Why do people keep doing this? So we have our basic 2 hit roll plus modifiers. The big thing too is that your damage roll is actually going to be just 2d6 as well. So it's going to be 2d6 plus whatever your weapon power is minus their armor equals the damage. However, if a melee attack deals 0 or less damage, it becomes a glancing blow. Because this can also become glancing blows. And this is... You see where things get a little bit wonky? Because you can trigger a glancing blow with a 2 hit. You can also trigger a glancing blow with a damage roll, because there's a good chance that you might do 0 damage, simply because you just don't do enough damage to injure something, possibly with armors like 20 armor, for example. You know, it's like, well, shit, I didn't do any damage. I just do a glancing blow on it. We have negative effects, status effects. We also have our belt slot, which store items in the belt for faster retrieval, which is mostly just a swift action. So if I have a knife on my belt, I can grab it. But your belt rating, yes, technically you would need to write down on your character sheet your belt rating, the amount of stuff you can store on your belt. Yes, I do like my belt rating. Do I plan on doing this game? Yes. Most likely. As you can see here, talking about your game's Other Delusions #1. Is it going to be right away? Probably not. It'll be there. So again, we have our basic load. We have a heavy load. Then we have a bunch of this. I don't know why these are like really low quality. Like, I can't read any of these. Like, that's... Jort, this is unreadable. It's okay to be big. It's okay to be big. I will talk about things, Jordan. I will talk about things, Jordan. Again, you can kind of see this. This might have been just a conversion over from whatever it was. I see this happen sometimes. This is technically 8.5 by 11. If it was a smaller document, there's a chance that like these kind of get fucked up. These might be able to explain things a little bit better. Yeah, when I got a little bit confused with like, oh, it has an SDM of +14. This is like one of the things where I started getting really confused about SDM. Is where if you look at it, player A has an SDM of +14, a GB value of 7, and a melee to hit roll of +7. I'm like, how the fuck did you get an SDM of 14? That's impossible. Like, that you can't just get at 14 on this. Like, how? Because that can't be the strength modifier then. Where's the SDM calculation? I poured over this document so many fucking times. Jord, I love you, brother, but why? Normal attack roll. I'm not even 100% sure I did this right. I'm going to say that right now. But value is 14, has 24 health, and wound value 24. It's like, what the fuck? Why is it so high? No roll damage normally. But like, really, at the end of the day, here's the thing. At the basic end of the day, this game isn't complicated. What I mean by that, really at the end, it's just 2d6 plus modifiers versus something else. So I want to attack a monster, it's 2d6 plus my 2 hit versus their evasion. Cool, I rolled a 10, plus my 3 plus 3. I rolled a 13. I beat their initiative, and then I'm going to deal that. I'm going to add on all my score. So let's see, with my basic piece of equipment with my whip, I'm going to do 6 plus 9. I'm going to do 15 damage. That whip. I can do that. Or I'm going to make a missile attack. I'm pulling back my bow as hard as I can. I roll. Oh, I've just hit. I've hit. Pull back my bow. Let's do 2d6. I rolled a fucking 2, and I would do 14 damage. Hit him right in the fucking noggin. That's cool. I like that. It gives a lot more thematic. It works. It's just very poorly laid out. Half the stream, yeah, no, like it's been a little bit long, but I like going over like little details like this. Most of these are going to be like special attacks, like unarmed special attacks. Anyone can use these. Certain weapons can also do things. For example, like my whip, for example, can actually use the fling maneuver. Hits a target with rigor score. The target can be sent flying strength 3 in any direction. Target lands in occupied space. The target object model, they flew and suffer the attacker's glancing blow. This is cool. I like having like little combat maneuvers here. These are kind of cool. I like them. Grappling obviously is a big thing. You can actually rodeo, climb on the monster's back. This is also kind of inspired by Monster Hunter in a way. And there's a full thing on rodeoing, and there's a full thing on grappling. Don't forget all the AoE abilities, don't you? God help us all. Now, this is where the equipment comes in. Now, you split it between basic armor stats. You're going to need a proficiency in these, which again comes from the martial paths. They don't tell you that though. When basic attack for a counter, like, okay, I'm going to take up half SDM. This is where it says, like, you're a little bit inconsistent how you write down things. It's like, oh, they gain 1.5 SDM. Or is it 1.5, or is it 1 and 1/2? Details. Little thing. Write it clearly. I believe... Now, I would say this. This is the big thing as well, Jordan. I do not know... Yeah, no, I will make a fairly dedicated point, which is to say like, I don't know, like I think he's ESL. I don't think Jordan is like naturally an English speaker. You might be fluent in it, but I don't quite know. Like, but it's like one of those things where it's like, be a little bit more specific when it comes to things like this. I can kind of forgive it. I don't know if he's like it's written fine. Yeah, okay, Jort is ESL, all right, because I know he's from Israel. He is what we like to call the chosen people. Living weapons function like normal armor. I like the idea of it, but it's like, oh, if player wields matching living weapons and living armor, their total health cost is reduced by 33%. Yeah, living weapon sets are one-handed, two-handed weapon, or two-handed weapons. Now, you will. How do I want to do this? Living gear is like a major thing of this, but it's also like you aren't going to get it right away, and it's kind of a bummer because it's like, yeah, you're cool, you got these cool items and these cool weapons and you're living armor, but it's like you don't. No, you're not going to get that till probably not even like till about level 3. Level 4 at kind of like I'd say like level 4 is when you start getting like your first like, ah, cool, I got my first living armor, and that's kind of a bummer. Because it's like, you kind of clearly being like, yeah, blood drive, primal combat, you know, you Johnny, you're wearing monster armor, you know, you can clearly hear the sick guitar riff in the background. But then it's like, oh no, you aren't using that. You know, we got, that's funny. You fucking goblin. You know, still, Head Street is a reach one, light one-handed weapon, switching weapons. Now, this is what it comes down to. Also, here's all of the full blood harvesting system. Yes, don't forget about our blood harvesting system. This is the armor types. So, light armor provides you these basic ones. Partial coverage, medium coverage, full coverage. So, wearing medium coverage armor, light armor, just needs 3 strength. Which does technically mean that there's entirely possible your character cannot actually wear their armor, their medium coverage leather, like light armor. It might not be possible for them. However, if you go to limited coverage, you go to medium armor, your limited coverage here, but then you start taking speed penalties. It's -1 speed, -1 speed, -2 evasion, +2 rigor, -1 speed. They don't really tell you which ones you can take. I kind of opted for limited coverage because I was going, you know, limited coverage medium, just +2 armor. And I was going for that very specifically because I thought, like, okay, this is going to be a little bit easier to kind of work with. Not many things actually just have light armor. So it's like, oh, okay, like I can choose whatever I want. So neat. Heavy armor is its own big thing, which you can technically, if you have heavy armor specialization, you can just take limited coverage and just ignore it. You know, limited coverage does not count as wearing armor. Does limited coverage not count as wearing light armor, as wearing medium armor, or wearing heavy armor? Or is that like a different thing entirely? It's like, Jort. Yeah, it's, yeah, you have basic one-handed weapons, and most of them are going to be things like this. Like, the axe does 7 plus 1/4 of your SDM. And I'm like, oh. Oh, what? Okay, then we have our mace, which does this. So sword, 7, but doesn't factor in its SDM, but does factor in its SDM. Then you're like, whoa, wait a second. Because what occurs here, for example, with the axe, how I'm reading it is, let's say instead of a whip, I chose to get an axe. So what would happen with my strength? I have +4 to my various rolls here. What it would be is 7 plus 1. 7 plus 1, because that's 1/4 of my SDM, +4 for my final power rating. The final actual amount of damage I'm going to be doing. So technically it would be 12 power. I'd be doing 12 damage with the weapon. 2d6 plus 12. That's how I'm like 70% sure how it's done. I think. Yeah, it's like, again, they kind of put it strength. I ended up using the term power for things because they use the term power elsewhere. Hello, phone. Yeah, this is where it's like, that's why I was getting a little bit confused. I'm like, wait a second, why is strength here? Is strength something different? But no, it's might. It's like, is it might? Is it strength? What's the SDM value? And then I was starting to have a stroke. You know, like my brain slowly started to fucking melt. You know, basic spear, you know, whip. I chose to get a whip because you can never deal glancing blow damage. However, I can use finesse or agility instead of strength when determining my SDM. What's SDM? Strength damage modifier. Yes, strength. Yeah, you know, that's the strength damage modifier. However, they never tell you what strength damage modifier is, but it actually is +2. You know, it's +2 per point of strength. Now, interestingly enough, they do say this finesse or agility of strength instead of strength. So technically, what this would be is I can use my finesse, for example, to do a +6. Hence why I have a 9 in my whip right now. But I can also use the trip, pull, disarm, and fling maneuvers to perform any of these instead of a regular opportunity check. Ooh. Ooh. We got our basic chain whip. I thought I'm like, I'm gonna go with whip because I think whip's funny. And if we go to shield, I chose a buckler. +2 evasion, +1 armor. Once per turn, when an opponent misses you with a melee attack, you can attack with this weapon as a free action. On a hit, this attack deals agi damage. Technically, my get up is I have a bow, which I'm able to shoot. I'm going to go bang, bang, bang. When someone closes the distance, I put my bow away, I take out my whip, and I whip and bash you over the skull. And a lot of these do grant you additional effects. He does outright state, like, armor isn't really a penalty in some cases. It's mostly about, just, like, raw bonuses. But weirdly enough, like, lighter shields grant you evasion. It's like, okay, so here's +2 evasion, and then I go to tower shield, which is -5 evasion. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who would take a tower shield unless you're going for, like, real big gimmick. We have our great swords, great axes. I think this is where things kind of started, like, building up when it says, like, oh, SDM. I think that's what they were talking about here. And it got a little bit confusing when it came to wording. Now, if we go down here, you see what this is like the bow, for example. SC is strength damage and missile damage, which are technically used the same thing. I was doing my math correctly. Correct re the axe. You look up and see what the Aegis does. Okay, we'll look at what the Aegis does in a bit. And we see, like, the unusual episode, like, unusual episodes, unusual weapons, and things like that. Weapon modifiers, because, yeah, there's weapon modifiers here. Because I'm so sorry, Ethical Explosives. You think your game is unique? It's not. Yeah, there's clearly a lot here. You even got, like, armor modifiers. You got things like, you can technically create any weapon to be human skin. I'm like, all right, cool, fuck it. Living weapons and armor. This is what it's like a standard, like, living weapon might look like. Like, hey, I want to do the Hydraco Mountain Crusher. If I have 80 HP, I'm pretty much spending 80 HP to do this. However, so I have Regalia. I can passive interrupt people. I can flatten people. King Sunder. Gargantua Typhoon. I'm like, okay, cool. Or you get things like, okay, the Avr Flamethrower. Because I cost 10 health to use. Reduce my maximum health by 10. This is bad. This weapon's missile attack deals pure fire damage. All types of status effects applied with this weapon are turned into burn instead. I'm like, oh shit. It's not a very large weapon, but it's a fucking flamethrower, though. I'm shooting a Fire Breath, Momentum 1, Special Combat Actions. Place a burst AoE 1 at range 3, targets everyone in range versus trigger, deal finesse ×3 fire damage, and everyone gets lit on fire. I'm like, damn, zam. Zam. This is pretty cool. Big gauntlets and things like that, blood drives. Now, living armor is somewhat the big one. So this is the Buckfish Helm armor. Like, cool. Dark vision sent 30 feet. Hootie Smile, cool, light armor, +5 armor, and even though it's light armor, it's like, damn, this is almost 5 times as better as, like, standard armor. Oh, while adjacent enemies suffer slow, if you have 6 instinct, intimidating presence 2, oh, active clamp melee, combat actions +1, oh, instinct 6. The higher your instinct, the better your armor is going to be. And you might get things such as, the Trampler's Hide, or you might get things like the Stampede, or, because the Vaxasha Stalker Carapace. I like the idea of these. I really do. And I'll get to that in a bit. You can kind of get all the consumable items. A lot of these are actually pretty big. And I like that. 10 HP worth of blood, small blood vials. Because you need to pay for these armor in one way. You're going to be doing that mostly through your own blood, or these blood vials, which is like, I need to activate my armor, and suddenly you pop open these blood vial and cover yourself in fucking blood, which is pretty fucking metal. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty fucking metal. And I like that, that it is metal. You know, healing salves and all that, consumable items, clotting tinctures, anti-venom, oculus. There's clearly a lot of stuff here. And I like this, you know, buckfish eyes, various mounts. You can technically eat horses. I would, you know, dynasts. Food and hunger. This is a fairly big thing too. It's like, yeah, you can eat scarce meals. Vegetarian, you can eat assorted fruits. Basic meal, which is pretty expensive. You know, you can technically eat human meat, you fucking monster. Like, you can eat a bunch of these things. And it's like, cool, I like that. Status effects, scars and disability. Pretty much anytime you get reduced to 0 HP, you're going to take a scar. Major scar, pretty bad. Anytime you suffer really major damage, you're going to be taking scars. These are how you kind of, I wouldn't say level up in a way, but these are kind of like a way that you're going to really show progression. You're going to get fucked up in this game pretty badly if things go wrong. You know, it's pretty easy to get rid of them. Major scars are really the big one, though. Anytime you hit 0, you can also stand the fuck back up because, again, metal. It's like, okay, awesome. Technically, you can botch scars, treating scars. Now, some of these scars are something simple. So let's say, for example, let's take my 1d6, roll this. I rolled a 5. Since I rolled a 5, let's see, no scar. Otherwise, roll in the major scar table, rolling on a 1, and you might end up with things like this. So if I just take a scar and do this, let's take table A, for example. I've rolled, and I've got a 11, so shaking fits. And, you know, grazed genital, popped ears, broken nose, major scars. Like, okay, you know, these are pretty bad. You know, disabilities are pretty fucking bad. Yeah, so living armors and scars tier 4 and higher. You know, destroyed or rebel state cannot negate limb loss. Limb damage, arm damage. Minor scars. Minor scars are pretty easy to get rid of. And they're things like, yeah, you broke your finger. Yeah, you have an inflamed eye. Not really that bad relative, but these still kind of fucking hurt you. The big issue is hemophilia, which is your max health is decreased by 10 minus your vitality, and your wound value increases by the same amount. It's like, Zam, I'm going to die. Major scars are kind of the bigger one. Quasimodo, crippled hand, ruined nose, missing toes, broken arm, broken legs. Now, the disabilities are also pretty, like, yeah, you've lost your fucking jaw, your spine is shattered, you have brain damage, your armor's trying to eat you, or your skin has been flayed off. Then we have all our basic skills, our kind of a character sheet. This is what I mean by, like, our character sheet's kind of a little bit janky. Look how enemies work. Enemies aren't really in. Now, here's the big thing with Blood Drive. Here's the big thing. There's 3 things with Blood Drive. 1, find a purpose. What are we doing? And emphasize it. First things first. And that's like my big thing I should also say, like this right away, is is living armor priority? Is kind of barbarian survival priority? Is monster fighting priority? Find that where that priority is really staying. Because right now it's like kind of going between like living armor super cool. You should totally use living armor, but it's like, but you can't use living armor yet at all, really. It's like, oh, and it's like, oh, hey, you should fight monsters. It's like a big thing with monsters, but you should add some more stuff with it. I would say harmonize your fucking terms. Do it. If it's a 1.5 or 1 and 1/2. It's little things like that which are important because it's going to make reading things a lot simpler. And it's just like, is it strength or is it might? Is it, you know, what's the SDM? Like, what really is the SDM at the end of the day? List off some of these little, you know, little bits and pieces, but like everything here is working. It's just jank as fuck. The one thing I would also say is do not hesitate or characters to be stronger. Do not be afraid of it. And it's just like, what do you mean don't be afraid of it? What the idea is you shouldn't be afraid of the characters should feel a little bit more important. They should feel bigger. They should feel impressive. They should be something a little bit odd. What SDM means, strength damage modifier. Yeah, but your strength damage modifier might be augmented by different things. This is where things get a little bit wonky. The big thing here really does boil down to the concept of you need to find purpose of what you're looking for. Like, clearly you have the idea. Clearly everything's there. Like, don't change combat, really. That'd be the big thing. Don't change combat. I think combat's your strongest point. Focus on it, but figure out what you want to do with that combat. Using the idea of, like, the living armor is cool. I like that idea. Like, you're constantly burning your health away to do something. Cool, that's neat. That's a neat idea. Let us be stronger. Let us be tougher. Let us be these hulking barbarian badasses. But we also live in a world that fucking hates us and we're going to die. Like, yeah, you're a hulking barbarian badass because you've done something. You've tamed a basic living armor, which you need to now kind of do something. You've earned your your tier 1 stupid, like, congratulations, you're now a human being. You can maybe survive long enough to do something. Or maybe you'll just die like so many others. Primal combat. It's not about being nice, it's about surviving. Those are like the the big thing. Again, it mostly just comes down to writing, really. And it's like, if you ever need someone to look over something, don't hesitate to ask. That's fine. It's okay to ask for help, guys. Like, that's okay. Like, I chose to do this in particular just because some people were like, hey, can you look at this? Hey, can you look at this? Cool. Just bear that in mind when you're writing, second edition, or when you're writing 1.5 or anything like that. Is keep the terms though. Keep the terms solid. Find out its purpose. What you really want to do. What you really want to figure out. What's the thing? What's the goal? That's the the big thing. And also list out things. Like, do not hesitate to list things out. Like, it's very, very tempting to be like, I don't need to list this out. This makes complete sense to me. No. Put your fucking classes in. I didn't even go over the fucking classes at all. Put the fucking classes in there. Yeah, no, these are like the classes. And mind you, these all do something slightly different, and they do give you bonuses, and they do give you like more perks and abilities. Like, this is like some of the hunter stuff. Like, you clearly have a lot of ideas and you clearly have a lot of ideas and movement and things to do inside a single class. Emphasize these, please. Please. Like, ah, man, you want to be a soldier? That's cool. That's awesome. Just let me be a fucking soldier. You have everything here. Let me do it. Yeah, no, that would be my suggestions. Yeah, even put this in the main document. I understand why it's not in the main document, but just put it in the main fucking document, please. Yeah, that's blood drive. So, it's a game with classes. Yeah, they never talk about the classes until the very end. I need to go over cogs. Yeah, you said you were working on stuff, Scribble, so I was like a little bit like do I really want to go do I want to go seeing here? Do I want to go here? Do I want to wait on it a bit? Do I you were doing some stuff with it, so I'm like, I don't really want to go over something that may not be completely finished, or at least in a state, which was like, you should go over this. I'm like, yeah. So our next game is going to be one that's been this is Inversion. Welcome to Inversion, and welcome to the worst named fucking handle ever. Fuck you. I hate you so goddamn much. You have no idea. This is Noonie. We all like Noonie. You've seen him probably in the server more than once. He's a cool dude. Neat person. Kind of a dick, but he's kind of a dick I can get behind. Cockmongler, you know how it goes. Let's see. Can I find anything on Noonie? Oh, Noonie. Oh, Noonie. I believe it's words in here. Fine. Find you fast. Do you have a... Tell me more. Damn it. Okay, he doesn't have anything. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to really base him off of. Here's a picture of a cat instead. There's Noonie, everybody. Or words. I got really nothing else to say about it. Like, here he is, everybody. Here's this cat. See, the best part about having absolutely no social media presence, is that you can't deny any social media presence either. So let me bring up something. Where's a good there we go. Here's Noonie, everybody. This is Noonie. I hope everyone's right. This is a visual representation of Noonie. Or I know what I can do. What's Mexican cartoon about bad guys? What's the fucking villainous? I believe that's where his avatar is from. Yeah. There we go. I think he's Mexican. So there we go. No one can confirm nor deny that this is correct. So I can only assume that, congratulations, you're actually Mexican now. There's no confirmation in any direction. That just simply is my vague, thing to God. So yeah, have fun with that. Okay, cool. We're done with that. Let's look at his game. This is Inversion. He's been working on this for quite a while, actually. It's been a while. You can see version 22, test 18, V22 18. You got all our very big character sheets here. This may seem like a lot of character sheet. This is not a lot of character sheet. It's a very open. He does actually have a fillable character sheet. You can kind of see here. And obviously, I had to bring in the one man who is able to do it. Welcome to Punish Jaster, everybody. The man, the myth, the legend. A man hunted by a shilling. He's a human scavenger. The basic description. This is what I mean. Like, it's not really as big as you think it is. Simply because... Excuse me more. Fuck. Yeah, it's not really as big as you think it is, but that's fine. I'm okay with it. Good character sheet, and it's actually full and fillable. So we have our basic character sheet here. There's actually a lot of this game. It's on 106. It says, oh, it's only 106 pages, but this is in spreads, obviously, so it's technically about 200 pages roughly, if we kind of take out all of the various parts of it. But let's start from the top. So as you can see, there's been quite a few different changes. As you can kind of see, he's actually kept a full change log. I don't do change logs because I'm me, and I don't care. As you can see, very nice, very nice. I believe this is all AI generated art. Now, Inversion is a D12-based tabletop role-playing game with magic, guns, and lost technology. It's focused around an open skill point progression system to choose their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, interestingly enough, so, cool. Filled with ancient wonders, advanced runes, and fantastic stories where laser rifles blast and are blocked by tower shields, fireballs, and bullets fly past each other as wizards fight gunslingers. I'm like, alright, I'm in. I like it. I think it's a kind of cool idea. Let me fix my glasses up so I can fucking see. So we got our skill point system, central in the way your character improves. Because there isn't things like attribute points. There are not things such as that. You get just kind of a basic helping of skill points for you to invest anywhere you really feel like. Everything can be broken down into a skill point of some variety, which I quite enjoy. I think it's pretty. I think it's a good way of doing things. However, I'm going to say this. When I opened this game up, this is what kind of took me. Magic technology mixed together and build interesting worlds, setting of the week style games. Unique wars have rules for things, keep them simple and engaging. Adventure Time, Trigun, Wild Arms, City in the Dungeon, Amphibia, Infinity Train, She-Ra, Borderlands, Final Fantasy, Phantasy Star Zero, Cannon Busters, Metal Alchemist, Nausicaa, Doctor Fucking Who, Revolution, and Supernatural. Okay, so immediately the first thing listed off is actually Adventure Time. So I had it in my mind. I'm like, this is what this game is going to be like. All right, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's make a little bit of a wackier character because Jaster's my man. You'll quickly learn that this is not really the case. Not really the case at all. Ugh. Oof. Let's see. Cool. If you give me 1 second, I remember I did. Oh, Jesus. I'm back. Ah, yes. Hello. I'm alive. Yeah, no, that was me downing an entire thing of coffee and me realizing, like, man, I need to go to the little noties room. But yeah, so this is kind of like what it opened up with. Again, Full Metal Alchemist, Amphibia, Adventure Time. I was immediately like, all right, cool. Know what we're getting ourselves into. First level, you're going to have 25 points. At 12th level, you have 120 skill points. Skill points are the most important thing in this game. And these are really what you're going to be doing, because this is a D12 game. I say just a D12 game because really that's what it is. So, however, I will say this right now. I didn't make my character correctly. I did not make a good character right now. Hey, you accuse me of being terminally French. That's all I gotta say. looking at skill point universal currency, spend skill points, encounters, and rests. Because again, you can spend skill points during rests. 30 minutes are like your short rest, and you have your long rest or 8 hours. Pretty standard stuff. Nothing too exciting there. Adventure, pretty standard. Doesn't matter if you kill 20 guards or talk your way into a vault, recover yourself in butter and slide through the vents. The only way that matters is diamond and you got out. One of the big things here is that it's not about, you're not getting XP from like killing things, you're not going to get XP from doing something, you're going to get XP by just doing the adventure. Same thing, that kind of stories, same idea. Which is, use once for adventure to gain a bonus to a roll. Everybody can use stories. It's adventures that are, things that goes on. And that's kind of neat. I like this idea. You're kind of building up and you're being rewarded for it. Now, add bonus based on your skills, how successful you are. So, basic rule, basic concept of this is you're going to roll 1d12 and you're going to add a bonus. So, let's say, for example, I need to make, with Jaster here, Jaster needs to make a brawn check. He needs to lift something up. So he's going to roll 1d12 plus 2, and he rolled a 4. He rolled a 6 partial success or success at a cost compromise or the complication. Simple enough, easily understood. I want to make another check. I rolled a fucking 1 failure with additional complications. Pretty simple. Skill alone, it's only possible to roll a 12 and at least rank 3 in a relevant skill. Generally speaking, this is going to be the most common outcome, partial success. Am I a huge fan of this system? No, I'm not a huge fan of this system. I'm going to tell you right now, this is man who does not like Chinese food goes to Chinese restaurant. I've never been a huge fan of these kinds of systems. This isn't a fault of the game. This is just my personal opinion. Out of anything, I like it more than most, and it does do some things differently. That skill spread hurts me. Yep. Yeah, dice results. It's like, okay, social skills provide positive reaction. They would close 14. Best outcome of the roll. Generally speaking, if you have like +1s and +2s, it's like, all right. Now, I say this is kind of it because this is really what we have to work with. Again, all these are coming from the same pool of points. And I thought, well, it's only going to be out of 5, so that must mean that it's better to have a skill than to not have a skill, because you don't want to get too big. You don't have much room to really work with. So I spread my points around really very generously. This was a mistake. I should not have done this. I made a very unoptimal character. But making unoptimized things are sometimes what you need to test these. Actual ground success. Yeah, very simple. If you always roll a 1, you fuck up like majorly. Things get harder. Now, one of the big things too is that you don't really have health per se, you have endurance. Endurances can be applied to just about anything in most cases. You can technically reduce people's endurance by just talking to them, and I kind of like that. I think it works pretty well. Exploration is everything around combat and social encounters. Delving, do stuff. You're going to gain more fatigue. The more fatigue you get, the harder things get. Generally speaking, this game is about adventures. This game is about going through a dungeon. So you've been doing it for 6 hours. You're going to get a stack of fatigue. 12 hours. You're going to get a stack of fatigue. The brawling still controls how much weight. Blah, blah, blah. Pretty simple. Yeah, some carry weight. You have food and drink, obviously. What are you eating? Filling rations. Basic rations. Extravagant rations. Extravagant. Woo! And always sleep. Nice. This is one of the main things you want to do. You want to eat filling rations. You want to get good sleep, because these are granting you re-rolls. It's your ability to say, like, I rolled a 7. Oh no, I need a higher skill. Wowzers. I rolled a... Your dice are trolling. I rolled a 9. Woo! Yeah, that's really what this is all about. Combat rules are pretty simple. Is that it's not quite PBT. I'm not going to say it's like it's PBT. I hate it. No, it's taking I don't even know what you would call it, but like set range resolution. But this is why I say it's like it's set range for the kind of the non-combat stuff. Like in combat, things get a little bit more. And this is why it's like, okay, I kind of forgave it after I saw how combat and stuff like this work. This works just fine. So D12 plus any bonuses you have, actions and turns. Everything you're going to be doing is going to cost you 1, 0, 1, or 2. Everyone has 2 actions. I like the 2 action economy. It works pretty well. You know, endurance is how long you can last. And this isn't necessarily, I've been stabbed, I'm bleeding to death, I'm on the ground convulsing or anything. No, this is just your ability to shrug off wounds, fatigue, or just not wanting to get into a fight any longer. This is fine. I do quite enjoy this. Now, and it goes now. If you take damage 3 times while it's 0 endurance, you die. Yeah, this is like okay, pretty standard stuff. You know, attacking. This does also mean one thing I do enjoy. This does also mean that you are actually able to deal with people, not necessarily through combat. I enjoy that. I think it fits the themes, like what they're kind of going for, especially things like with Trigon. I'm like, cool. Attacking, because this is opposed checks. Yes, this is opposed checks. So, one of the big things is, let's say, for example, D12, they have a dodge score of +2. I have an attack of 1, offense of 1. We roll. They rolled a 8. I rolled a 12. Go me! I've managed to defeat them. I've bashed them over the head. And cool, that's really neat. Everyone can hit an adjacent space because this is actually on a grid, which is kind of weird. Maybe that's just me, though. Maybe that's just me. You know, damage is, you know, what's your roll minus target's armor. Armor reduces damage taken. All right. You know, adjacent space, weapons with the reach power, attack up to 2 spaces away. Very easy, very simple. And if you critical hit, ta-da! They will do bonus damage based on the weapon in context. Ranged weapons, notably guns, do treat this very different. Though when we get to equipment, I'll understand. Like it's a little easier to explain. You know, combat spaces, smaller, medium creatures. Okay, I'm like, all right, cool. It works. Damage, immunity, and vulnerability. Might be able to reduce some damage. This is what I mean by like the diplomacy system. Like, you can deal damage equal to your check, but it's like, yeah, I want to, you know, drive down an opponent's will and make them run away. I'm okay with this. I really like this kind of system because I like, you know, sometimes pacifist characters. This is one thing that's in some games that are hard, where it's pacifist characters can be fun. Like, you don't necessarily need to be useless in combat if you're a pacifist. Like, you do actually have purpose. Now, mind you, it's probably not suggested you go into a pacifist character in the murder, rape, nightmare dungeon, but it's nice it's there. No, I do enjoy the fact that it is present. Scene attacks, which are kind of more like bigger ones. So it's like, if I'm using like a branch to beat the shit out of you, D8. This is really like one of the few instances where I'm seeing like D8s or other dice types show up. Kind of weird, but it works. I'd say make note of it earlier. I didn't really see any notes of like, oh, you should use the other dice. I do like this mechanic though. This is actually a very interesting mechanic, and I do quite enjoy it. One of the ideas is that you can burn your own armor. Instead of it, let's say for example, I take 6 damage from an attack, and my armor reduces by 1, I take 5 damage. Now, what occurs is what you can do is you can brace your armor. Pretty much is you're going to get attacked by something, you brace your armor, and they're going to roll minimum for it. So if it's a 66 fireball, they just rolled 6 damage on it. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But you're reducing your armor permanently by 1. So it's like, okay, you can burn your armor to mitigate damage quite heavily, which is kind of good. It gives light armor actually some pretty good, it sets things like light armor to be very good. Opponent's Coronis. We're looking at a game called Inversion by a friend called, by my friend, Noonie. Very interesting little game, inspired by things like Trigon. You know, Trigon, Wild Arms, and a couple other games. Kind of interesting. Adventure Time is also mentioned there. Is this game available for free? I don't believe so. I mean, if you probably look around, you can find an older version. But, Noonie, words, where are you, my friend? Yeah, so I do like this. I like the brace armor mechanic, and very simple. Not like a super large amount of actions to do in combat, but it's like, yeah, I can brace my armor, I'm changing my equipment, I'm moving, I'm running, I'm doing a scene attack. Okay, cool. You know, like I'm doing skilled checks, I'm just bashing you over the fucking head. There's just enough combat to this, which makes it fun, but not enough to like bog everything down. But we'll get to that in a bit. Trust me, we'll get to. Don't worry, there's still some issues with it. Do not worry. But we have our character advancement. They do say you have to spend your skill points on between 4 rough categories. You know, you have your skills, gear, developments, and character and combat classes. This is what this is when I say like combat gets a little bit wonky. Am I a fan of the combat classes? I'm going to tell you this right now. I am not. But we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, we got our skills, our gear, our developments. Like, all right, cool. Now it's like languages. Cool. This is where I first started getting a little bit like, wait a fucking second. That looks strange. Technically, you're going to start with a few languages depending on your race or your species or whatever the fuck they end up calling them. It's like, cool, you speak, read, and write all languages you know. So it's like abyssal, cool. Kodak, machine language used by robots. All right, cool. Common, neat. Cryptic, cool. Dead and undead, neat. I like how each one who has kind of a little description, can be spoken with grunts and shambling. Draconic, dragon language. Dwarven, elf language. Ethereal creatures, clever forest creatures, giants, gnomish, goblish, human, which I find, but kobolish, orcish, prim, trollish, thalen, and vendrin. This is where I can tell you right where I started being like, oh no, gnomish. When I saw gnomish and goblish, like, yeah, here, let me see if I can, if you want to look at it, give me 1 second, I will. Yeah, I don't think I have the link for this version, the 18. Okay, so I'll post the version for 17. This is test 17. Nothing really changed according to him, so just bear that in mind. I like goblish. Yeah, it's, someone did point it out, like, this is D&D languages. And this is one thing I kind of noticed, like, I get it, but I was like, the thing is, like, if you do see something, if I get something wrong, tell me. And that's a big thing too, where it's like, tell me if I get something wrong or I'm like not reading something correctly. And yeah, that's fine if you tell me that. Like, this is me going over your thing and me providing my honest feedback on something. Like, so bear that in mind. Yeah, but when I saw the languages, I'm not gonna say my heart sank a little bit, but I became a little bit more jaded because it's just like, wait a second. I'm like, all right. But character creation, 25 skill points. Backgrounds, cool. You gain 1 backgrounds. Got basic rumors, like the rumors idea, your ancestry, your skills, and your wealth. Cool. So you always are going to get your first background. Some of these backgrounds are very good. Others of them are terrible. So these are free. You don't get any, but you can actually spend 2 skill points to get additional background. So, for example, I am an animal handler. You gain crushing, piercing, slashing resistance against wild animal and beasts. You get +1 passive armor, or start with a poison type consumable, or you're a doctor, or you're a diplomat, or you're an explorer, or a gladiator, or a gunslinger. Now, technically, if I wanted to be more optimal about things, what I should do is I should have picked Gunslinger, but I chose this to become a scavenger. +2 to streetwise checks, +1 to speed. Now, if you're noticing, if you're really noticing, you're seeing like, okay, so the knight just starts the horse, elm, or ram mount, 20 maximum MP. Okay, yeah, there's MP in this game. Critical hits, mysterious pass, translators, traveling performers, but the one that like I was like a little bit like were things like, oh, here's a penalty to like athletics and acrobatics checks, here's a penalty to random thing like skill ranks below rank 2. You know, it's like, oh, in combat you have +3 to dodge until an attack misses you. Some of these are like kind of interesting, others of them are like, oh, that's kind of cool. Not really gonna take this unless I'm like deliberately making a certain character. But then it's like going into this just as who I am. I'm a fucking optimist when it comes to things. I'm like, yeah, let's go into this, but I'm also like, I'm going to optimize the fun out of this because I love that kind of thing. One thing that kind of got me a little bit was things like, yeah, bodyguard is just flat +1 armor, which is pretty good. And like, can I burn armor? Can I burn this for bracing armor at all? I don't think I could. But like, oh, you will -1 to offense checks. Some things give you penalties, some things don't give you penalties, but they all cost the exact same. So it's like, all right. And then you get things like hard life, which just gives you minimum 6 more endurance, where you just, yeah, some of these I'm not like a huge fan of. And then it's like, oh, just work with you, build your own. I'm like, cool. But like, I would rather take something for a flat bonus than like, oh, you're a scientist, or like, no, like you're a, where was the one that like kind of, yeah, like perfectionist. I don't know how many people would play a perfectionist though, especially not me. I was like, oh, that looks bad. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, so again, we have the rumors, and the rumors are like a story way. Again, it's nice having like some creative ones. But for example, here, you know, involved in the Finno-Korean hyper war, are responsible for delivering fear and hunger to the people, is a noted troubleshooter for Jaster. And obviously, I selected the truth. The rumors and stories are designed to like kind of flesh out your character a little bit more from what I saw, which I thought was pretty cool. I think it was kind of neat. That's hilarious. Yeah, I never heard D&D all my never played D&D in all my years as a role player, but it's any inspiration to really bother me. Yeah, I could see that. What was the there's one fucking game from Scandinavia, I can't remember its name. They're actually translating it over. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. I have a Norwegian friend actually who was talking about things, and he's just sad that like everyone just plays D&D. Everyone like all my friends just play D&D, and I don't want to play D&D. I'm like, oh, you poor bastard, you know. So reading it, so you get one ancestor, you get a brief description of them, and then you get like a description, kind of a dual ancestor, because you can spend 5 skill points, take 2 instead of 1. Again, the core attributes, traits, and abilities of both ancestries, but anytime they kind of contradict or overlap, you may choose only one. Now, dwarf. Yeah, here's a dwarf. It's exactly what you fucking think is a dwarf. Stone form, dark vision. God bless dark vision. From what I could find, dwarves are dwarves. Cool. Elf. They're elves. Like, neat. Humans. I went with a human. Because they just get more skill points. They get 150 starting silver, +1 to bluff and negotiate versus humans. I'm like, okay, that seems pretty good. They don't get a lot of endurance because these actually determine the amount of health you end up with, which, you know, perseverance, anytime you make a skill check, for knowing the consequences, you roll again with a +2 bonus. All right, cool. That's neat. That's kind of a neat. Kind of broke it down here. I'm assuming this is where like art is going to go, like, so don't judge it too much on that. Goliaths, okay. Restore 2d8 endurance. Kobolds. Yeah, there's kobolds. Vendress. These are like the proud and immortal creatures of Fae. Natural connection to magic. Like, okay, they're Fae people. That's kind of neat. Gnomes. Hey, gnomes. And then Cypher. Cypher was the only other race that I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. They're like robots. Like, cool. That's neat. That's thematic to me. You know, true machine body, living machine body. I'm like, okay, you know, this is kind of cool. Yeah, this is, you know, kind of an interesting series of, you know, I'm like, all right, I'm in. However, this is the one thing I want to kind of comment about the ancestry section. This is one thing I kind of want to talk, you know, most about is it's cool this exists. It's cool that it's here. It's like, yeah, neat. Neato burrito. However, it's like you open up with something like Adventure Time. You open up with things like Trigun. You open them with Wild Arms. That immediately kind of gave me more of a, oh, this is going to be some weird shit going on. Or it's going to be very human, and it's just variations of human. And the issue, because, like, in my opinion, again, like, I don't know if any of you have watched Adventure Time, have heard of Adventure Time before. I enjoyed my time with Adventure Time, never finished it, though. But, like, Adventure Time, like, here are some, like, the standard characters in it. Like, she's a fucking bubblegum. She's on fire. She's a vampire. There's a this person, Finn. You clearly had, like, a lot of different people in here. And I was like, okay, this is fairly diverse. And it's like, okay, Trigun, for example. We go to Trigun, we can decide, like, yeah, we have Vash the Stampede. It's a very... Oh, yeah, we have Zoomer Vash. Like, okay, cool. Even like Wild Arms, for example. Wild Arms is kind of its own thing. I get the inspiration of, like, we want to go for, like, just human. Like, we just want to go for, you know, kind of a fantasy. It's kind of a schizotech, and that's fine. But it opens up. It's one of those things, like, it opens up being like, here's our core inspirations. And then it's just like, by the way, here's, like, some very standard fantasy TM races that I'm like, it's kind of like my oh boyness kind of dropped a little bit. I'm like, oh, let's go down a little bit here. Those are more about the inspiration of what's going on, and see, like, yeah, like, it's cool that you cite, you know, Wild Arms, or you cite Full Metal Alchemist. Really cool, but it's like, a lot of these series are almost entirely human-based or something similar, because, like, even in, like, let's take a quick gander at this. Yeah, like, Adventure Time, the very large mixture of races, people, ancestries, humans only, really humans only. I don't really know about the city and the dungeon. Amphibia is, like, they're amphibians and things like that. Infinity Train's very diverse with just the amount of random shit in there. She-Ra, and she had, like, animal people, but humans. Borderlands was almost 99% humans. Final Fantasy had some very diverse races in it. Phantasy Star Zero, never really played Phantasy Star. And things like Cannon Buster, Full Metal Alchemist, Inosuka. What I'm trying to get across here is that it's like, oh, here's some cool stuff with Inversion. And then it's like, hey, everybody, time to be fantasy again. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Neat. And then it's, yeah, so that's what I'm kind of, like, trying to get across here more than anything. I'm like, cool. Right, I'm done. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's kind of weird to call this Adventure Time inspired, then hit us with, like, stock fantasy races. And the thing is, it's like, I get what they're going for when they say this is what it's inspired by. I get that. Yeah, it's hard to call humans only. You get what I mean, though, Draco. You get what I mean. Making races is complicated. Like, I understand making races is complicated, but it's like, again, it's one of those things you open it up with that, and then it's like immediately into. Cool. If there was like a create your own race option, I'm like, okay, cool. Neato burrito. Like, here's some like basic races for people, and like, here's how to create one. Here's how to create a few. Neat. That's cool. Gives us something to work with. Gives us something more unique, little features to play around with. And it's like, awesome. This game isn't complicated. You got to remember that. There's actually not much. All you really need to worry about with a race at the end of the day is some basic traits and some core attributes. At the end, really, this is the important part. You can kind of play around with the traits really however you feel like. Even if it's down to things like, hey, you can just get some basic skills, or hey, you can get some special vision. Like, have just a list of random shit you can play around with. And it's like, yeah, cool. You want to play a weird, you want to play something kind of a little bit stranger, you can. Okay, skills. Skills are the main core. This is a skill-based game, not an attribute game, a skill game. Now, everything has 5 ranks. However, these 5 ranks are not built quite equally. So, one of the big things with it, first 3 ranks is +1 to succeed, 4 gives you 2 dice, and then 5th rank is your unique ability. So, how this kind of works is we'll take we will take bluff, for example. Because I have a +1 in bluff, I'm just going to roll d12 +1 anytime I use bluff. +2, +3. Like, all right. Anytime though I choose to go up to bluff 4, I'm now going to roll 2d12 and take the highest. I would take my I'm going to be able to take 2d12 and take the highest, if I'm reading this correctly, like, for that skill, the result of your choice, yeah. So it's like, cool, like, I rolled a 1 and a 4, so I can take the 4, so effectively take the highest. Usually at 5, though, you get a special ability, it's a special skill. However, this was my reasoning, this is my thinking when it came to this particular thing. All right, I have a lot of skills. They only go up to 5, so it costs a total of 12 points to go through. If you really kind of I broke it down a little bit. And pretty much, if you want to go from 1 costs 1, 2 at the end of the day costs 2, 3 costs 3. All right, pretty simple. However, what the full cost is looking something more aligned like this. To get up to the full rank 5 is going to cost you 12 points, 12 out of your 25. So why would I ever want to go above about a 3 in something? Like, that's still a pretty heavy investment. Remember, you only get 25 skill points to begin with. Now, as a human, you end up with 28 at the end, but that still isn't a lot, and there's still character classes you gotta go over. There's still, again, the combat classes you gotta go over. There's still the fucking other things you still have to go over. The equipment, there's still a lot of other things you have to go over. So I was like, ooh, damn, I don't want to, I want to conserve my skill points a little bit more. I want to keep those a little bit tighter. I want them to be mine alone. A little bit worried. I don't want to spend my points. These are valuable. So it's probably a better idea that I spread them out a little bit. And I went with things like a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense, a little bit of health. Gun is kind of unique. We'll get to that. All of these, streetwise, technology, brawn, finesse, mechanics. So I chose to do a little bit of investment everywhere rather than just one investment, one place. Cool. It's Spanish one, actually. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of seeing that as well. Yeah, it's the thing with like Adventure Time is like it's very post-apocalyptic. Technology is kind of weird. I think that's the idea, that it's not necessarily like the character races or anything like that were like a direct inspiration. I think it was the idea of like, yeah, here's a kid with a sword and he's fighting a robot. Or like, hey, here's a magic dog who is now trying to solve a puzzle in a ancient ruins that is actually a Walmart. It's I think that was what he was going for, but it feels kind of weird. You know, it's like, I'm directly inspired by Lord of the Rings. Now here's this cyberpunk story. It's like, wait, like I get what you're going for here. Like, I understand it's like, oh, it's about the adventure, but it's like, wait a second. Yeah, Wizard is technically a race inside within Adventure Time. They literally are. Yeah, it's Trigun's a sci-fi Wild West. Yeah, Wild Arms is a fantasy sci-fi Wild West. Like, there's a lot of things out there. It's kind of a cool, like, I get what he was going for. Like, that's the thing to me. I get what you're going for. However, understand. So, I didn't want to spend too many points on my skill points simply because I'm like, that's not really efficient. Now, I'm going to give you a secret. This is the least optimal, most horrific decision you can make. This is the absolute worst choice you could physically make. I made my character wrong. And I made my character wrong because a lot of things assume you have like a +3 in something, maybe a 4. Or a lot of things actually kind of assume you're going to be in, which is kind of like, oh, that's kind of a... Because yeah, each of these skills do actually do quite a bit of different things. So offense, like you roll to hit, as well as improvised weapon damage, because weapons are going to deal damage actually based on your offense rating. So you better have better be able to invest in it. Be like, yeah, you want to need to invest in simple melee weapons, simple range weapons, expert melee and expert range weapons. But then you have things like defense, which is not only your ability to avoid being hit, it's also your ability to use armors. Like light armor, light shields, medium armor, heavy shields. You need 5 to actually use heavy armor or get 2+2 dodge. It's like, oh. Health is actually the amount of health you end up getting, so you need to kind of buy this, I wouldn't say consistently, but a little bit. Guns control gun proficiency. You need 3 skill points to buy the gun, a single gun proficiency. You can kind of see here, I bought pistols only because I wanted to have a pistol because I thought that would be funny. But yeah, pistol type, rifle type, shotgun type, one-handed guns gain the offhand weapon property. Yeah, so I could invest in these, and technically to invest in this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's the same amount of cost because you're effectively buying a tier 2. You're effectively buying a +2 to something. This is the only thing that does this, though, so it's a little bit wonky in that regard, but I get what they're going for. Now, this is what I mean by a lot of them get their own special actions. So, bluff, how well you can lie or mislead to get what you want. At rank 5, you get the Storyteller action. Make a bluff check and replace the result of any roll your ally made with your result. This ability can be used on anyone's turn. Cool. This is neat. I like the idea. Like, it's the... Like here, like if you invest heavily into ranks, you're going to get a bonus. You're going to get a special little ability that you can write in. This is what I mean, though, when I say these are really valuable, and me kind of spreading it out a little bit maybe wasn't the best choice. I mean, like, why didn't you just really invest them? Because I didn't know what was valuable. Like, I was like, okay, maybe I have to build up into these knowledge skills. You need Arcana to get MP. They don't talk about MP almost at all. Honestly, maybe it would be better to leave first inspirations. I think listing the inspirations was good. It's just one of those things where it's like, you lead with the inspiration. If they put like the inspirations at the end, I think it would be a little bit better, but it was just like, you went into that with that like expectation in your head, but then you look at it, you're like, oh no. It's a double-sided sword. Yeah, it's you can stab yourself pretty easily with it because yeah, it's like Arcana is used by some combat classes, magic items, and ability this is an entire different resource. You can actually get an entirely separate resource of just MP. It's magic ability, magic points. Obviously, I didn't invest in that because magic is dumb. But you get, at rank 2, you get Arcane Bolt, Arcane Shield, Arcane Blinks. Where it's like, oh, like, so maybe I should have invested in that. Maybe that would have been a better idea. You know, history is your knowledge. That +1 to skill checks if your group fails until you succeed at that check. Yeah, you have +1 to skill checks. Your group fails until you succeed at that check. Or streetwise, gain ability to sneak attack, +2 to finesse checks per pocket. Sneak attack becomes thrice per encounter. Yeah, this is one thing I'm not a big fan of. Individual skills can actually influence other skills pretty drastically in some cases. +2 is pretty big in this game. So bumping up your streetwise makes you better at finesse checks in very certain very certain situations, and then it's like, oh, here's a sneak attack, you have to use that in certain technology. Don't even talk about things like technology, or wilderness, which gives you an entire different fucking animal companion to worry about. I'm not like the biggest fan of that personally, but that again, that's me. I'm not. Those aren't my kind of games. The action skills, like, yeah, like acrobatics is like, yeah, you get +1 initiative checks, more speed, more ability, brawn. Here's a bunch of things for brawn. You know, you actually get quite a bit of things for just hitting rank 5 with some of these, or finesse, which again, it's like finesse. If you take rank 4 finesse, you get +1 to all your mechanics checks. But why? I understand, like, streetwise is more a knowledge skill. It's like, okay, it's a knowledge skill that feeds into finesse skills. Similar to how this is literally if you take this finesse and it's an action skill, which feeds actually into mechanics checks. And rank 3 mechanics gives you +1 to technology technology. This isn't an increase in the rank, this is just a raw bonus you get. You know, this isn't, for example, I get a +2 to all my streetwise checks because I'm a scavenger, not because I'm it's like, oh, that's kind of weird because, like, to me, increasing my my streetwise skill up to 3 now was a lot less valuable because I already have a +2 to it. I don't. Why would I want to invest more into it when I don't need to? I'm going to get all of the checks. I did not. Constantly paranoid. I'm going to like drop this bottle of water on the ground. It's going to be in. Yeah, like mechanic inside, mechanics boost. First aid, medicine first aid checks, like his first aid. No, so it's medicine, but you get first aid checks, restore endurance and short rests. Yeah, it's one of those things like, why wouldn't medicine just be a first aid check? Like, why didn't you just use medicine for first aid? But you don't get a +1, but you get a +1 to your first aid check for rank 1, rank 3, and rank 4. So at rank 4 medicine, you have a +3 to your first aid checks. That's weird to me, unless it's supposed to be that, but there's just like a skip there. It's like, why is this the case? And like, I understand like you can get first aid elsewhere, but it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna harp on like fucking like, yeah, I'm not really gonna like worry about I just realized you can perform pickpocket checks even while unconscious as long as you have one unbound hand or foot. Okay. That's kind of weird, but alright. Perform game the ability inspiration or +1 use. It's like, oh, skill at rank 5, perceptive, which is a initiative or negotiate checks. there's a bunch of little weird decisions throughout here that it's like, this is cool, but then it's like, oh wait, what the fuck? Like oh, okay then. You'll ride +1 or wilderness or technology techs with my ride abilities. So is it better for me to invest in ride? No, why would I do that? Like, why would I get a bonus to my technology techs if I'm like, oh, I need to disassemble. Ah, don't worry about me. I'm trying to disassemble this machine. Thank God I know how to ride this horse. Like, yeah, no, it's supposed to be like, it's your ability to control everything. But it's like, yeah, I'm not +1 to any one skill check of your choice. Willpower's just good. You just get +1 to things. It's like, oh, cool. That's neat. Force of will. Yeah, so you see where I was like a little bit like, oh, okay then. You talk to Noonie, not me. Oh, that definitely a curious case. Curious and curious. Yes, Jord, I did enjoy. I will say I did enjoy good old fucking fashioned Adventure Time for a bit, but then it got dumb. It got gradually dumber. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Yeah, no, it's like, Mr. Y, if you find it, just yell at Noonie about it. Don't yell at me. Yeah, wealth. Two kinds of those who believe money can buy loyalty, and those who know loyalty is always up for sale for the highest bidding enemy. So you have our basic currency value. 1 silver coin is worth 10 copper coins, 1 gold coin, 100 silver coins, and a bar of metal worth 100 coins of that metal. So, starting wealth. This is where things get funny. You start with 1,000 silver. Let's note this down, everybody. We're going to determine our money. 1,000 silver. You get 1d6 times 10 silver for being dwarf, elf, human, number of players in your party, every background you have, every rank you have in history, every rank you have in streetwise, every rank you have in wilderness. Which at first, like, to be honest, if you want to get the most amount of money here, you would be let's just say human. Let's say you have 3 other, like, let's say a number of players in your party. So let's say you have a party of 4. So, okay, we have 4. Every background you have, we only have 1 background on average. Let's just do 1, 1, 1. Technically, if you want to be optimal about it, that would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can get 9 times 10 additional money. Actually, no, that would be 9d6 times 10. If I'm reading this correctly, which let's do a little bit of math here, everybody. Okay, let's get all my dice out. Let's roll for money. Money, money, money. Like money. World is powered by money. Money. Money, money, money. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, everybody. 96. Okay. Good news, everybody. I rolled shit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 12, 16, 19, 24. I ended up with 240 extra gold from that. Cool. Don't worry, we also get 2d6 times 10 additional silver for every skill above rank 3, every rank you have in mechanics, every rank in form or ride. And finally, you get an additional 120 silver for having 3 ranks in 1 or more social skills. Every language you know past the first 3. If you have at least rank 1 in 8 different skills, if you don't have any skill at rank 4 or higher. Technically, I ended up with getting 240. I ended up with a shit ton of money inadvertently because I was gimped. I used to have poor language. Yeah, no, welcome to the wonderful world of trying to min-max the amount of money you get. You have various treasure values, art trinkets, magic items, and technology. It's like, oh, tech level that times 10,000. Oh, damn. All our various equipment and gear. Various equipment. Now, most of the combat equipment is pretty light. I'm okay with it being pretty light. You can kind of see there. It kind of goes over our various things. We have our various light shields, which you can be like, I want to buy an elven shield. I want to buy a fractal shield or an ancient glass shield. Ooh, a heavy shield, a kobold heavy shield, or a zephyr shield, or a Goliath shield. Cool. And then each of them have some properties. Then we have armor, merchant armor, beast armor, elven armor, leather armor. Obviously, for my boy Jaster, I spent money on leather armor because leather armor is the best armor usually, and I didn't want to buy some pansy ass fucking elven armor. Fuck you. But each of these also have their own unique properties, like Predator, for example. And when wearing, +1 to 3 skill checks of your choice, and +2 to one of the skill checks above. So technically, wearing beast armor does make you better at doing certain things. I chose leather because leather is the most simple, but you can invest in some of the big ones. You won't be able to really because these are hellishly expensive, and nobody has enough money for this at all unless you choose very specific things. It's like, okay, cool. You know, abyssal plating, demon forge, active armor. Yeah, not a lot, but there's enough here to be like, okay, this works, and like masterwork armor, like there's enough going on to me like, yeah, this is fine. I enjoy this. You know, weapons, melee weapons, ranged weapons, and guns. Again, as I said before, your weapon isn't really, like, damage isn't really determined by your, like, the weapon you're using, but more your ranks in offense, which is like, oh, okay, you know, offense skill checks and roll the hits. So making you just better in offense just make you just a better fighter in like every way. You have shit stats with decent money, but not even really decent money. You'll get to see. Just like real life, yeah. Sound there a little bit. Yeah, so you have unarmed melee, you know, type melee, mastery provides weapon. All weapons of that type with additional special effect. Alright, cool. Then we have all our weaponry mastery. So if you hit mastery, well, let's say for example, you get to choose, you know, rank 4, choose mastery for one type of weapon. I say I want to do a handgun. Critical hits and attacks in critical range deal an additional +1d4 damage. You know, boars, or you got axes, shotguns, spears, staves, swords, unarmed, or just whips. Simple melee weapons, what normal people are going to be using for quite a while, are things like this. Okay, so let's say for example, I take mine. I have taken it, and I have an axe. It's going to just do whatever my ability is. Or I have a club, does +2 crushing damage. Or an iron fist, which technically can do more damage, which technically, by the way, an axe will do less damage than a club, if I'm reading this correct. You know, melee weapons deal 1d6 base damage. I don't know why that's the case. I mean, like, both are going to be pretty bad for you. Yeah, especially when you consider, yeah, well, club's supposed to be, like, two-handed, which is kind of odd way to word it. Like, when I think of a club, I'm thinking of, like, someone with a big, like, stick. Like, not really anything much more than that. A truncheon, pretty much. Let's see, a lot of different effects. Then we have the special weapons, which you need to be rank 2 in offense. Technically, I believe, yeah, technically I could use all the advanced weapons. I chose not to because I'm poor. Because I invested in a gun. But yeah, you can use great whips, dirks, chains, and shit like that. Expert melee, you need to kind of build up. You're probably not going to be able to use those. Fun fact, you don't got enough money for that. Various different kinds of ranged weapon properties. Not many ranged weapons. Not really many main range weapons at all, but I do also have guns. Yeah, but 1 action to fully reload, 3 action to reload, 2 action to fully reload. One of the big things is, so for example, all the handguns, every single one of the like actual, firearms have a crit range. You are within the crit range and you fire at somebody and hit, you're just going to do their critical damage regardless. That's kind of the idea, but usually if you're using a gun, you don't want to be in close range. So for my revolver, for example, with my big iron, if I roll, I'm going to just do D8 piercing damage. But if I get close enough, if I'm within 2 squares of you, I'm going to be able to do D8 plus 1d4 in the crit range. Like, damn, zam. Like, zam. I'm getting pretty fucked up. Guns are scary. Guns do quite a bit of damage, actually, and there's actually quite a few different guns compared to, like, bows. Like, cool, I guess. Different ammo types, different things. You can buy basic ammo. Technically buy basic poor shit ammo anytime you feel like. 20 is 20 rounds. I invested in shit weapons, and shit ammo, because I'm poor. And I burnt all of Jaster's money